Vikings with the weapons of a strong-arm quarterback, a breakaway running back, and 3 lethal receivers. Minnesota exploded into the 1998 season. The Vikings and the Rams next on Fox. Missouri, where the high-powered Minnesota Vikings make their first visit to the Transworld Dome to face the St. Louis Rams. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ray Bentley, along with my former Buffalo Bill teammate, Ron Pitts. And Ron, the Vikings ruined Tampa Bay in the opener, and they are excited about their offense.
Well, they should be. They may have the most offensive firepower in the NFL. It starts with the receivers. You know about Carter. You know about Reed. But a guy that everybody's excited about as we hear the bombs going off is Randy Moss. He's the rookie, 2 touchdowns last week. I tell you what he is, Ray. He's a combination of both Reed and Carter. He's taller than they are, and get this, the guy is faster than they are. They can run the ball as well, but the guy that makes it all happen for the whole thing is really Brad Johnson. He's consistent, and he doesn't make that dumb mistake in throwing the ball away, creating the turnover.
For the Rams, last week just 56 yards on the ground, 5 fumbles. They've got a case of fumbleitis. Well, they need a cure, and the prescription is Greg Hill.
Greg Hill. Hopefully he won't fumble it 3 times like Gerald Moore did last week. That's what they're hoping. And he's going to get the ball some maybe 30 times. But the guy that's got to make the big play is their Pro Bowler on the outside receiver, Isaac Bruce. The big question is, Ray, you're going against the madman down inside for Minnesota, John Randall. Can they keep him out of the backfield? Because he likes to live in the backfield. As you can see, he's quite ready to play this game.
Well, we'll find out coming up. It's the Rams and the Vikings. We'll have the opening kickoff after these local messages. Play well, all right? Play well. The Transworld Dome in St. Louis, Missouri, where the Rams are hosting the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings coach Denny Green used to getting the fast start. He's going to look for another one. If they do it today, they'll go to 2-0. Dick Vermeil, he's looking for any kind of start right now, as they lost the opener last week, but they looked better in the second half. He's hoping that they can get out of the blocks a little better. We're set to get out of the blocks. Jeff Wilkins will kick this one deep to Mo Williams and David Palmer, and they're off. This will be Palmer at the goal line. He's got a seam. Breaks it outside up to the 28-yard line, a 28-yard return for Palmer. You're looking at Brad Johnson, the quarterback of this Minnesota Viking offense. Johnson, he just did it all last week, 14-8 as a starter in the NFL. The man up front, Todd Stussy, Randall McDaniel, a 9-time All-Pro, Jeff Christie, David Dixon, and Corey Stringer. Robert Smith and Charles Evans in the backfield. Jake Reed, Chris Carter, and Andrew Glover, the receiving corps, and also number 84, Randy Moss will check in. They play about 50% in that 3-wide package. Johnson to throw on first down. He's got Carter on the outside. Todd Light with the tackle. Let's take a look at this Ram defense. Led up front by Kevin Carter. Looking to make the Pro Bowl. Mike D. Jones at one end, Kevin Carter at the other. DeMarco Farr and Joe Phillips are the men in the middle. The linebackers, Lorenzo Stiles filling in for injured Roman Pfeiffer, Eric Hill, and Mike A. Jones. Defensive backs, McLeon, Lyle Wright, and Todd Light. We have those 3 wide receivers in the game. Randy Moss down at the bottom. Carter and Reed up top, and they'll run the ball to Smith. Smith is hit immediately by Kevin Carter. He'll pick up 2. It'll be third down and 4 for the Vikings.
You saw the 3 wide out package there. That's the dilemma for the Rams. Can they cover all 3 receivers but yet stop the run game?
That will be the test. It's 3 wides again. Ryan McNeil checks in. He'll line up outside on Randy Moss. Carter in the slot. And it'll be Jake Reed down below. And the Rams are bringing pressure. Johnson with time. Throws it outside. He's got Randy Moss, and that's a completion brought down by Ryan McNeil, but it's a first down.
And that's the matchup there. That's what happened last week in Tampa Bay. If you're going to double Reed and you're going to double Carter, then somebody's man-to-man. And the man-to-man is right up top here. McNeil working on the rookie. And just a nice turn route. But the Rams defensively are saying, hey, somebody has got to lock up on one of those 3 receivers and just cover them. That's the only way you can effectively get pressure.
Moss Moss checks out. Andrew Glover, the tight end, back in. 2 men in the backfield. This will be Smith to the left side. He is brought down immediately by the big linebacker, Eric Hill.
Nice play that time by DeMarco Farr, the Rams defensive tackle. Very quick off the ball. He was able to get penetration, and that's what this Rams defensive front is going to have to do. They've had some changes in there. In fact, they've made some changes now. Grant Wistrom, number 98, the rookie for Nebraska, he just checks in. They're searching around looking for somebody that can get effective pressure to the quarterback.
The Vikings in their 3-wide package again. Moss and Carter at the bottom. Reed at the top. Play action. The heat is on, and this is the tight end Andrew Glover across midfield down to the 46-yard line. A little play action from the Vikings.
And that's also what makes it hard, is that you still have a tight end in the game. They call that King's personnel. And Ray, that goes back to our old days in Buffalo. Three wides, one tight end. Not only can they have great firepower on the outside, but with the tight end in the game, you can still run the football and use them to catch. And that's Kevin Carter, the Rams defensive lineman. He's shaking up a bit.
King's personnel. I had a little flashback. Brought that one out early.
I got to get your terminology board going.
I'm on the same page now. 1st and 10 from the Rams 46. Switchback. Johnson's looking for a receiver. He'll throw it outside. This is going to be almost picked off, and then it's caught by Carter.
He can still roll.
I thought Todd Light had it for a second, and it ends up in Carter's hands. Pick up of 21 yards on the play. Razzle-dazzle early.
We talk about the personnel changes. They went to 2 tight ends. And the ball's going to be handed off to Robert Smith. Then he's going to throw it back. And he really didn't have any place to go. Good coverage down the field by the Rams secondary. And we talked about Chris Carter being a smart veteran. Look at that catch. He knows to break it off because the quarterback doesn't have any place to go and makes a play.
The Rams were a victim of a halfback pass last week. Yeah, they tried to get him early, but Mike A. Jones stops Smith after a pickup of 2. This really showed you something about Chris Carter. He's just a warrior who fights for the football.
You know, it's about taking the ball away, believing it's your ball. I thought Light had the ball. In fact, he did have the ball, but Carter just took it away from him.
Brad Johnson starts out hot, 4 for 4. It'll be 2nd down and 9. The crowd gets into it. They'll run it to Smith on the right side. He's got room outside. Great block by Moss. They'll spring the touchdown. Touchdown, Robert Smith. 24 yards.
See, we talked about the firepower outside throwing, but you still have the run problem. And this one's coming right at you. The Rams get caught with only 6 people inside the tackle box. It's hard to stop the run that way, and a great block down the field. Looked like Carter on the outside.
It was Randy Moss who put Dexter McLeon on his backside.
And that's one of the things that we talked about. This guy, not only can he catch the ball, he can also block.
Anderson nails the extra point. You're right. And these high-powered Vikings, they take a 7-0 lead. Plays, 72 yards, ate up 4 minutes and 50 seconds off of the clock. The Vikings have continued the quick start trend that they've had throughout the preseason.
Yeah, and that's bad for the Rams because the Rams are not a quick start team. They have scored the least amount of points in the last couple years in the first quarter than anyone in the league has.
Mitch Berger set to tee it off. Tony Horn and J.T. Thomas deep to receive for St. Louis. J.T. Thomas 5 yards deep in his end zone, and he'll just kneel it down. Go back to that touchdown.
I want you to watch the block right here. That's David Dixon. He's going to pull around and get a great block there on Toby Wright coming down. He represents the 8th man. That's what Toby Wright's trying to do. They're trying to sneak him in and stop the run. Bam! That's perfect right there. And then look at this. That's Randy Moss. One thing Brian Billick, the offensive coordinator for Minnesota, was worried about, if he's going to run 3 wideouts, can my wideouts block? Well, watch this.
Ask Dexter McLeon if he can block. And Moss, with the length and strength in his arms, he's a force out there blocking people. First down and 10 from the 20-yard line. The Rams get their first shot. They'll give it to Greg Hill. A little cutback room.
Wow, it looked like a face mask there.
And the flag is down.
That could be a 15 or 2.
Personal foul.
Personal foul. 15-yard face mask. 93. Enforcing the end of the play. First down.
Here's a look at the face mask. John Randall kind of overshoots the play, and what does he do? He grabs anything he can.
That's right.
Unfortunately for him, it was face mask, but and that's a guy who's a key for the Rams to find out where he is. He'll line up all over the field. He'll line up inside, he'll line up outside, and they got to know where he's at so they can double team him. Right now, he's inside.
Hill alone back in the backfield on first down and 10. Oh no, here comes Derek Alexander, and he sacks Tony Banks for a quick loss. Let's take a look at this Ram offense. The quarterback just got sacked for a 10-yard loss is Tony Banks. Banks had 29 completions last week. That was a career high against the Saints. Looked real good in the 2-minute drill. Up in front of him, Orlando Pace, the #1 pick last year. Fred Miller, John Flannery, Zach Wiegert, and Wayne Gandy. Receiving core, Ernie Conwell, the tight end, Bruce and Kennison, the receivers, Derek Harris, and then Greg Hill in the backfield. Second and 20. Banks from the shotgun. Look for Kennison. This will be batted away. It looked like Jimmy Hitchcock got a hand on it. Let's take a peek at the Viking defense, who need to improve their play this year if they're going to get to the Super Bowl like they've been talking. Up front, Dwayne Clemens, Jerry Ball, John Randall, and Derek Alexander. That's a good group. At the linebacking spots, Wayne Rudd, the second-year man out of Bama, Ed McDaniel, and Dixon Edwards. In the backfield, Jimmy Hitchcock picked up from New England, Corey Fuller, the other corner, the safeties, Thomas and Griffin. Third down and 10. Banks will go from the shotgun again. It'll be third and 18. And he'll hit Kennison. No, that's Bruce. Isaac Bruce on the slant pattern over the middle. It'll be short of a first down. Yeah, Robert Griffith on the stop.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. That's well short of the first down. And that's going to be the problem for the Rams today. They're trying to move Isaac Bruce inside to get a bad matchup. But you saw the nice play earlier by Jimmy Hitchcock, who the Rams think they can go after.
That's the guy they're going to shoot for. It is David Palmer deep to receive the Rick Tootin punt. And there is a flag on the field. And the punt is a bad one. It goes out of bounds.
They're going to get a hold on that punt protection. Dwayne Rudd came in awful quick, almost made the play, the block, but they grabbed him.
Dwayne Rudd is an outstanding football player. We enjoyed talking to him yesterday and then watching him. He is so quick.
Number 22 on the kicking team. Penalty is declined. First down.
So the Vikings will get another shot with it. They lead 7-0. Brad Johnson started out the first drive 4 for 4 as the Vikings marched briskly down the field. They'll take possession at their 29-yard line. They've got the 3 wide receivers in, and they'll run it up the middle with Smith. Joe Phillips blocks up that middle, a short pickup, 2 yards on the game.
Yeah, see, they're going to have trouble running in that situation only because the Rams were able to move a safety up at the last minute. And they made that a 7-man front. And the rule of thumb basically is that if you can have 7 in the box versus a 3 wide out team, you got a chance to stop the run. 8 is great. But when you're 6 or less, now you got problems. And on the touchdown that Robert Smith just scored, the Rams had 6. They tried to bring down the safety late.
6 or less, you've got stretch. On the play action on 2nd and 7, he is hit by Kevin Carter. Incomplete pass. Kevin Carter with a big rush.
They're arguing for an intentional grounding. Now there's Kevin Carter. He works inside and then comes back out. Nice hand movement, working on Stringer. He's got a man in the area.
Leroy Horde was in that area. They're down in 7, 3rd and 8, let's call it, for the Minnesota Vikings. And Johnson will work from the shotgun. And He's going to have to take a timeout. He doesn't have enough men on the field. The Vikings will go on 3rd down. When we return, they lead 7-0 over St. Louis.
Smart move by Brad Johnson calling that timeout. Why? They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 men on the field. That's not how he wants to run his offense.
He's got 11 now. It's 3rd down and 7 for the Minnesota Vikings. 3 wide receivers in the game. Nickel defense for the Rams. And Johnson goes to Moss. Moss has this one. And he breaks the tackle, shakes it all the way down to the 41-yard line. Randy Moss picks up 27 on a 3rd and 7.
Like we say, you got a choice on what you can do. You can play man and hope that your pressure gets there, or you can play zone. The Rams are playing a 2 deep, 5 under zone. Ryan McNeil just kind of peeks back too early, but look at the catch. The guy is so tall, he's able to get himself up in the air, 6'4", 200 pounds, and just snatch the ball out of the air.
And they love the way he goes after the football. You saw it there. So the Vikings convert on 3rd, 1st and 10 from the Rams 41. Johnson will throw again. Pressure's on from Carter. He'll have to throw it away. He was looking for Jake Reed. Dexter McCleon with the coverage.
And the unusual thing about a guy like Randy Moss is that you don't find that combination. We see tall guys, and we see strong guys, and we see fast guys, but how many times have we seen tall, strong, fast guys that can jump like that?
And that's the thing. He has all the, and we tried to think of who a receiver is that is like that. We can't think of anybody.
Couldn't think of anybody. Brian Billick, the offensive coordinator, said, think of one guy like that that's got all that.
We were scratching our heads, and that's what the Rams defense is doing now. 2nd down and 10. Smith on the draw, hit by Carter, and then brought down by Charlie Clemens, shooting in from the linebacker spot.
If there's one guy on the Rams defensive line that's making consistent plays, it's probably Kevin Carter. He's a 1st-round pick from '95, and that's the 2nd time today we've seen him get penetration. And if they're going to be successful, one of those guys up front has to get penetration.
3rd down, 12 to go for the Vikings. 3 wide receiver package in again, and the Rams fake the blitz. Drop into the zone, and this is intended for Carter. Good coverage from Todd Light in the slot.
Excellent coverage by Todd Light. They put Chris Carter inside, hoping they'd get a big man, small man matchup right there. This is called 2-man, meaning the corners are just going to run on the inside hip, and they got help up top. So Light knows if he just stays on Carter's hip, that the quarterback will probably have to loft the ball, and maybe too much, and that's what happened on that play.
Mitch Berger will boot it away to Eddie Kennison, averaged 13.4 yards per return last week. They go for the fair catch at the 11-yard line. And that's where the St. Louis Rams will take over. 1st and 10 when we return.
Fox NFL Sunday is brought to you by Dr. Pepper and your local Dr. Pepper bottler. Dr. Pepper, this is the taste. By Volkswagen, on the road of life there are passengers and there are drivers. By Intel, makers of the amazing Pentium 2 processor. And by Gillette Mach 3, the first triple blade razor.
St. Louis Rams start backed up again. This was what they had last week in their loss to the Saints. They started backed up inside their own 20 on several occasions. They'll start from the 11, 1st and 10. Banks will give it to Hill. Hill's got room outside. He's got a block. He's got a lot of green in front of him.
Oh, he went out of bounds.
And they'll call him out of bounds at the 30-yard line. That's what the Rams need to do to get into this ball game.
Yeah, and that's why Greg Hill is on the field. They need somebody to make some plays, to get some positive yards and not put the ball on the ground.
A 19-yard.
Talk about, first of all, knowing where Randall is. He's inside, so the Rams crash down the whole right side of the line, and a good block out here. He's able to outrun McDaniel. Nice block on the outside. Isaac Bruce working on Griffin. And he's going to step just right there. Yeah, he's fully out. But the key thing is the Rams get out of that hole.
They'll go 1st and 10 from their 30. Play action. They're looking for it all. Bruce is open down the middle. He catches it at the 30. Huge play for the Rams down to the 22-yard line, but there is a flag, and it will be holding against St. Louis.
Penalty flag down.
What did Tony Banks tell us? He said the Vikings corners really aren't that good, and we think we can go after them and make some plays.
Holding number 70, offense. 10 yards, first down.
Wayne Gandy.
That's Wayne Gandy, the right tackle. That's it. He's inside now. That's a Wiegert. Now that holding was right there. And boy, he kind of, hip hugs him there.
Yeah.
You realize he lost him inside.
He actually almost missed on the hold. He's trying to get a piggyback.
That's bad when you can't even hold right. You're trying to grab onto something.
That's the kind of force John Randall is.
Dick Vermeil told us the minute we establish run, we think this team, because of their aggressiveness up front and in the secondary with the safeties, are vulnerable to the play action, and you see that came through right there.
The holding will make it 1st down and 20 from the 20. They'll run it again. Hill looking for room outside. He can't get there. Wayne Rudd, the linebacker, tackles him for a yard loss. Rudd is just so quick. He reminds me of Cornelius Bennett, another Alabama linebacker.
He does. I thought you were going to say he reminds you of yourself.
Well, that too.
Rudd right here. Now you see the way those backers are all stacked inside. They do that so they can give them the ability to run to the football inside out. And because they've got such great speed in there, they do that very well. And there's a perfect example. That's all Coach Fazio, the defensive coordinator, taking advantage of what he's got and using it to the best of their ability.
Rudd put a move on Orlando Pace in space. Banks on 2nd down. He's picked off. Torian Gray steals this one away. Flag flies on looks like a face mask, but the Vikings should retain possession. Torian Gray, a 2nd-year man with a huge play.
In case you've been away from the NFL for a while or haven't seen the Rams play, that's a classic example of the way their games go. Hit a big play, have a penalty that erases the big play, come back 2 plays later, and now have a turnover.
Personal foul, 15-yard face mask foul, number 88 defense. That'll be half the distance to the goal line. First down.
Bob McElwee giving insult to injury.
Watch the pressure up front. Randall's inside, working up the field, but it's the 2 outside ends that get a decent amount, but not a whole lot, Ray. There's no reason for him to make this play. I mean, he just doesn't look before he tries to cross the street, as they say, and lets that ball fly. Good anticipation by Gray, and there's a foul right there. You don't have to grab the face mask. Any part of the helmet, they will call a face mask penalty.
1st and goal from the 8-yard line to the Vikings after the turnover. 2 tight ends in the ball game. Robert Smith in the backfield, Carter in motion. And there is movement, and there are flags. And then a lot of pointing. You always get the pointing after that kind of play.
Neutral zone infraction, number 90 defense. Half the distance, first down.
And Ray, that's part of the new rule this year, the encroachment or flinching rule. You can't come into that neutral zone, but you can't even pretend like you're going to come into the neutral zone and flinch to try to draw someone outside. And Dick Vermeil, things are getting rough when the coach has to go to the water table.
Early. He went to it with 4:24 left in the first quarter. He hit the water table. That was Mike D. Jones, guilty on the penalty. Half the distance to the goal line. 1st and goal from the 4 for the Vikings. Smith motions to the right. They'll give it to Charles Evans. He barrels into the middle. Not much room. He'll pick up maybe 1.
You talk about the weapons outside and the ability to run the ball. Well, the Minnesota Vikings may have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And you just look at what they have, not only from a talent standpoint. You got guys like Randall McDaniel, 9-year Pro Bowler, and and Todd Stussy next to him, and the big guys on the other side, Dixon and Stringer, they just have size across the board. And they're pushing on a smaller defensive line of the St. Louis Rams.
Big guy, he's right. 259 for Dixon and Stringer is the body weight. Touchdown, this is Andrew Glover. He is in the end zone, got the feet down. The Vikings go out 13-0.
Great catch by Glover. Good job on the ad-lib by Brad Johnson.
Glover didn't catch a ball last week. That's his second today. That one for a touchdown, a 4-yarder.
And Glover is a guy who they say, you know, we almost forget about him sometimes. I mean, with all the other receivers we have and the ability to run the football, we almost forget to throw the tight end.
They forgot to cover, and Gary Anderson converts the extra point. Minnesota over the Rams, 14-0. Minnesota jumped out to a 21-0 lead in beating Tampa Bay last week. They're all over the Rams, 14-0 right now.
And that was just a good ad-lib, like I said, by Brad Johnson. It's so key for your quarterback down that end of the field to not panic when he's got a rush on him. He had pressure, sidesteps, and makes a play.
It'll be Mitch Berger kicking deep to Thomas and Horn. This will be Tony Horn taking it up the middle on the return. Finds room out to the 25-yard line. Let's take another look at that touchdown by Andrew Glover.
This Glover right there, he's going to sneak inside, then work back out. One of these two guys has to have coverage on him. And there's the ad-lib we're talking about with Johnson, and then the nice catch. Wow, if he got two in, he just got it in. And in the pregame, they talked about Brad and the injury and having to get his throwing motion back. But I tell you, so far today, it looks like his motion is okay.
First and 10 for the Rams, under 26. They'll run Hill. He works out to the left side. Brought down by Hitchcock after a pickup of 3 yards. Right now, let's return to James Brown at the Fox Network Center in Los Angeles.
Ray and Ron, Brett Favre used any and all receivers, including seldom used tight end Tyrone Davis. That for a touchdown, 25th touchdown toss by Favre in his 12 starts against the Bucs. 10-0 Green Bay. Back to Ray and Ron.
Did you know that guy with the cigar?
It looked like a distant relative. Look at this. The problems continue for St. Louis in the first quarter. 28-0 outscored so far this year. It's not looking good for him as Greg Hill is brought down after a pickup of 2 yards. Derek Alexander on the stop.
One thing Dennis Green talked to us about last night was the fact that they haven't played the Rams, at least since he's been there, since '92. And that's a very unusual term to go through and not play a team, especially that's in your conference. He said, we don't know much about it, and that scares me.
3rd down and 5. 3 wide receivers in for St. Louis. Banks throws it outside. Isaac Bruce shows you some move. Hitchcock brings him down, but not till he gets to the 49-yard line.
You know, they talk about YAC, meaning yards after the catch. And the guy they equate for that a lot of times is Jerry Rice, but Isaac Bruce is probably the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL. And like you said, they thought they could pick on Hitchcock, and it's what he can do after the catch, that kind of stuff, that sets him apart.
They'll mark it at the 48, where it'll be 1st and 10 for the Rams.
They're going to try to get him the ball 10 times a day.
They said Dick Vermeil said he'd throw it to him 12, 13 times every week. They expect Ike to catch about 10 of them. He did last week. Look out, Banks with pressure, but he's got a man open in this. His receiver, J.T. Thomas, all the way down to the 34-yard line, but Banks is down after the play.
Hitchcock came on the corner blitz, something they haven't shown, at least not in the first game. There he is on the outside. Derek Harris can't pick it up, and he's just able to get contact after Banks throws the ball. I'm not sure if he rolled on his foot or he hit his arm on the way back. But a nice throw, a nice catch by Thomas.
Robert Griffith made the stop, an 18-yard pickup. And the Rams will take a timeout. This is the kind of thing they need to jumpstart this offense. After the big play they had in their last series, got called back from a penalty, they go to the air.
Well, you think about it, Bruce had 2 catches, but the guy had 2 huge catches, and they went down the field.
Tuesday, find out who survives the big propane blast and who doesn't on the season premiere of King of the Hill. Then see why Sue is the breakout personality of the new season. The series premiere of Costello before an all-new Guinness, Fox Tuesday, starting at 8, 7 Central. What about them dance steps?
Yeah, I want to know who taught Sue how to dance. They didn't do a very good job.
Oh, well, it wasn't this lovely lady.
That's better dancing.
Tony Banks 2 for 2 so far on this drive. They've kind of thrown the running game to the wayside, and that's what they came in here trying to establish.
And you notice that what Hill gives them that they didn't have last week with Gerald Moore, because Moore is more of an inside pounded type of runner, is that he can get outside. And we've seen him bounce twice, and they've all been pretty decent runs. Coach Fazio, Vikings defensive coordinator, their biggest problem today is finding out and knowing when the Rams are switching personnel. Unlike other teams, the Rams don't signal in the personnel changes. They just do it through the headset. It's hard to pick up.
First and 10, reverse coming. This is Isaac Bruce, and he's got some room. He's got wide open space. He'll cut it back inside. Bruce to the 10-5. He's down to the 4-yard line before Robert Griffith brings him down. Pick up a 30 on the reverse.
We talked about the big plays in the open, Ray. The Rams needed them. There you go right there. Bruce is right here. He's going to fake and come back around, and the Vikings don't recognize it. We talked about using the play action and working their ability to go against the fact that the Vikings move so quick on defense. And look, Tony Banks is out there trying to throw a block.
Block somebody. And he's a big man.
Yeah, that's what you said that. 6'4", 215. Yeah, he can roll out and try to throw a block.
This is where the Rams had trouble last week. It doesn't look like much trouble on this. Greg Hill up to the 1-yard line, and there's a shoot on the field. It's like Ed McDaniel lost it. No, that's Dwight Alexander without the shoe. There's a couple of shoots out there. That'll be the end of our first quarter with St. Louis knocking on the door. The score, Minnesota 14, the Rams 0. Fox NFL Sunday will continue after these messages and a word from your local Fox station. Second and goal from the 1-yard line for the St. Louis Rams. They'll give it out to Hill. It's a sprint towards the end zone. He'll get it in. Touchdown for St. Louis.
Greg Hill is a guy that had to watch the game in the stands last week with his family. He said, I couldn't stand it. People were making all these crazy remarks and screaming, why wasn't I in the game? They didn't know I was sitting there. But he said, I couldn't wait to get back on this field. When I got the nod, I knew that I could come out and do a good job.
Hill led the Rams in the preseason play with 3 touchdowns. His first of the regular season, a 1-yarder. Jeff Wilkins on for the try. Wilkins is good, and the Rams get back into this one. They trail Minnesota 14-7.
NFL Sunday is brought to you by Saturn, a different kind of company, a different kind of car. By Visa, the official card of the NFL that's everywhere you want to be. By Castrol Syntec, the active lubricant. And by Gateway. Let's talk about your Gateway.
his way up to the 30-yard line. Let's take a look at that touchdown again.
Yeah, the Rams wanted to do one thing, and that's number one, find where Randall is and then run away from him. Now, he's right there. So that play is going to the opposite side of the ball. And you saw a nice cutback or a cut block by number 77, Ethan Brooks, the offensive lineman. There he is right there. A guy that's this quick and this fast in your backfield, you got to try to get him on the ground. Now, he gets up fast, but if you can cut him and hit and run away from him, it makes life easier, and that's what they did.
The Rams had to take a timeout. They had too many men on the field. Lorenzo Styles sprinted to the sideline. It was too late. St. Louis had to use the timeout. Drive for St. Louis, 7 plays, 74 yards, ate up 3 minutes and 45 seconds left or off that clock. That's the kind of drive that they're looking for in St. Louis.
Well, that's a huge drive because that obviously puts them back into the football game after those devastating penalties.
Coming up next, 2 legends of the NFL square off. Troy Aikman of the Cowboys, John Elway of the Broncos, a battle for the ages. It's a classic matchup. You don't want to miss these 2 quarterbacks going at it at Mile High. That's all coming up next on Fox. Except, of course, for those in the St. Louis area. We have a sellout here, the 26th straight in the Transworld Dome. Pressure on Johnson. Looks for Smith on the screen. Has to overthrow him as DeMarco Farr put some big pressure on Brad Johnson.
That's DeMarco Farr inside. We talked about his pressure, how he can come across the ball as quick as anybody. He's right there. Watch how fast he gets inside. Now, I know this is a screen, and they're trying to let him come, but his ability to say close on the quarterback. We hear about defensive backs closing on the ball. Well, defensive linemen have to be able to close on the quarterback when they realize that they got a chance for the sack, or at least the hurry.
Number 1 draft pick Grant Wistrom checks in for the St. Louis Rams at right end. 2nd down and 10. 3 wide receivers for Johnson. He'll hand it to Smith off to the right side. This is Wistrom coming in from the backside, making the tackle.
The Rams' advantage that they have is speed and quickness on their defensive line. Watch the play by Carter right here. He makes this happen because he holds up the point up there. Right there. It takes up 2 guys to make that play. It took 2 Vikings to get him blocked. So you're short 1 man, and as a result, the play fails.
Wistrom showing speed off the backside, runs it down. 3rd and 8. And St. Louis has to take another timeout. And we'll take one as well. Minnesota up over the Rams, 14-7.
These are the mental errors that kill you. There's 14 players on the field for the St. Louis Rams. Even when 1 guy gets off, they still got 13, so they got to call timeout. You can play with 11 or less, but you can't play with 11 or more. And there's the 2 defensive coordinators for the Rams. Peter Turner on the left there and John Bunting.
3rd and 8 for Minnesota. They're 2 out of 3. 3rd down conversions, but Todd Stussy gets an early jump.
Prior to the snap, false start, 73, offense. 5 yards, 3rd down.
Vikings were only penalized 4 times in their opener, and this is something Denny Green likes to work on, the discipline of a ball club, not making this kind of mistakes and putting your team over a barrel now, bringing up 3rd and 13. 3 wide receivers in for Minnesota. David Palmer checks into the backfield. Johnson looking over the middle. This will be intercepted. Mike A. Jones picks off the Brad Johnson pass, and St. Louis is in business. I don't know where he was throwing to. He threw it into the crowd.
I think Johnson was confused there. Looking at Peter Johnson, one of the defensive coordinators. But the Rams dropped off in that full zone coverage. They didn't even try to go man. Watch all the blue shirts drop back into this area. That is a full zone. They're only going to bring 3 rushers. They bring 1 fourth one late. But they got 2 right here, 2 linebackers sitting inside. That is just great coverage and a good job of recognizing the ball when it comes off Johnson's hand. That's the first real mistake I've seen Johnson make throwing.
First and 10 for St. Louis from the 46 of the Vikings. Banks throws it underneath. And he's got Eddie Kennison for a pickup of 9 yards on first down.
You know, you talk about the Rams and they've had all their problems, and then you talk to the people in Minnesota. Well, they'll tell you that Vikings are known to have rough games coming back after big wins like that. They're coming down here and playing a team that hasn't done well, and everybody's hoping they're not looking forward to the Detroit Lions next week back at home.
2nd and 1. Hill tries the middle of the line. Doesn't look like he's got a first down, but right now let's return to James Brown at the Fox Network Center in Los Angeles for a game break.
Ray and Ron, Chicago started strong last week against Jacksonville before losing a heartbreaker, starting strong here today against the Steelers. 54 yards, Kramer to Bobby Ingram, back to pay dirt. Jeff Jager missed a point after, though. 6-0 Bears over the Steelers. Back to Ray and Ron.
Well, how about those Bears?
How about those Bears? They almost beat Jacksonville last week.
That's a tough place to play up there in Pittsburgh.
3rd down and 1 for the St. Louis Rams. I.J. Armstrong in motion. Banks on play action. He's got Conwell open. Overthrow Ernie Conwell.
He threw it too late, and he had Conwell the whole time looking at Banks on film. And I told Dick Vermeil this yesterday. I thought that perhaps Banks holds the ball a little bit too much and doesn't throw on time. When he does throw on time, he makes the plays. That time he had Conwell. He knows it.
Okay.
You're down by 7. You know, you fought hard to get back in this thing. I don't think you go for that right now. I think they got to play the field position.
Right, and they didn't have any faith in the running game. They went for the play action. Tootin boots it down towards David Palmer. Palmer with a fair catch at his own 12-yard line. That's where the Vikings will be in business when we return. They own a 14-7 lead over St. Louis. St. Louis Rams making a ball game out of it. Started out all Minnesota. The Rams have come back.
Yeah, and you know what they're doing, Ray, is they're taking something from Fritz Shermer, the defense coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, something from his book on how to play the Minnesota Vikings, and they're using that dime 30 defense. They only rush 3 and they drop everybody else.
First down and 10 for Minnesota. Robert Smith in the backfield. 2 tight ends in the game. Smith will carry off to the left side where he is bottled up by Mike D. Jones.
Yeah, you got to watch your Joneses on this team.
I'm telling you, you got to try to keep up with the Joneses here.
Yeah, you got the MD, Dr. Jones. He's a defensive lineman, and then you have Mike A. Jones,
the medical assistant. So you got your doctor and his assistant.
I'll tell you, in that last series, they can be called whatever they want. When you're making plays like that against this offense.
The Jones is taking over for the Rams defense. 2nd and 10. Glover in motion. Working the backside. Randy Moss has got this one in front of McNeil. He'll take it out to the 30, 31-yard line. Randy Moss, when in doubt, go back to him.
Yeah, you know, if Johnson doesn't have a big target like that, that might have been a difficult play. He had to wait for him to clear a bit. But this is just one-on-one coverage here.
How much rust is there on Ryan McNeil?
Yeah, there's a little, but I still think he has to be on the field like he is. But you see a little bit of that acceleration after the catch there from Moss.
First and 10 from the 30. Johnson will throw again. Dumps it outside to Smith. Hit and knocked out of bounds by Clemens. Charlie Clemens getting a lot of play time because Roman Pfeiffer out of that Rams lineup. Second down and 5 now. Run it off to the right side. pick up 4 yards, bringing up a 3rd and 1.
Talk about that size on the Vikings offensive line. That time they're running over to the right over big David Dixon, number 71. He's listed on the chart as 360. We asked him last night how much he weighs. He said, I'm about 350. I'd like to see the 330s again, but I don't think I will. David, I don't think you will either.
I don't believe he will. High school rugby player David Dixon grew up in New Zealand. How'd you like to play rugby against that guy?
Stay low.
3rd and short for the Vikings. Moss in motion. They'll dump it out to him. It's tipped a little bit. But Moss will make the reception and get first down yardage. Charlie Clemens looks like he got a hand on that, but Moss still gathered it in. It's first down and 10 from the 45.
A little jaw jacket on the sideline. He handed the ball to somebody. And you see, that time they used him in motion. And we haven't seen that much. Usually Chris Carter is the motion guy. But they'll do that a lot of times to mess up a double coverage situation that they think they might have, or to determine whether or not it's man or zone. That time he had plenty of room to clear the first down.
Randy Moss, 4 receptions for 59 yards. Carter in motion. They'll counter fake reverse. They're looking for Moss one-on-one.
They don't have it.
Good coverage out there by Dexter McCleon. You kind of put a little press coverage on Randy Moss.
Yeah, you asked Randy about press coverage last night, and he said, well, the press has been good to me so far.
Yeah, so my game isn't about hype. I don't care what they write about me.
It was such a good answer. I didn't want to interrupt him. I said, okay, next question. I think he was a little tired on that play. He'd just run on that motion play, picked up the first down. He looked like he was blowing a little bit. Now you see him on the sidelines.
Kenny Green having a word with his prize rookie. 2nd down and 10 now for the Vikings. They'll split Chuck Evans, the fullback, wide to the left. Carter and Reed at the top. Johnson throws this one into a crowd, and this one is knocked away by Todd Luck.
Boy, he didn't see Jake Reed on the out pattern. See, when you have so much time, and on that play, Johnson had a lot of time. A lot of times, you outthink yourself. And I think you really tried to force the ball that time. You know, they say the quarterback's got about 3 seconds before he's going to get hit back there. Well, anytime you can set your feet and look back and check to the other side, you've got good time.
The Rams check in with that 30 nickel we talked about. 3 defensive linemen.
You see the 3 defensive linemen right there.
And Dr. Jones got an early start.
He got him in the face. He got him in the...
Huge error. Huge error.
What was a 3rd and 10 may soon become a 3rd and 5 for Brad Johnson.
Offside, number 90, defense, 5 yards, 3rd down.
Penalties, penalties, penalties. I can hear Coach Vermeil railing right now. Last week, they had 10 penalties for 105 yards, and they've had a couple that have really cost them early on today.
Yeah, they had 6 for 55 alone in the first half.
They're down in 5 for Minnesota. David Palmer checks into the backfield, 3 wide receivers. Johnson with pressure, he'll scramble. He'll fight his way close to first down yardage.
I don't think he made it.
Leonard Little with the stop. It's going to be close.
Depends on how they spot it. I don't think they made it. Johnson getting in a little tip down there. Rams doing a nice job of mixing up the coverage and the fronts. The Vikings said coming into this game, we know the Rams will probably give us a lot of different fronts. They showed it last week. That makes it hard for the offensive line to determine who's coming and who's not coming.
So with 4th and less than 1, the punt is coming. Mitch Berger will boom it away to Eddie Kennison, standing in his 10. He's got some room. He'll come back to the right side. He's up past the 25 to the 28-yard line. 18-yard punt return from Eddie Kennison. The Rams will take over, trailing by 7. Tonight's the best night on television. It begins with the world's funniest, followed by Holding the Baby and The Simpsons. Then it's the fall's grooviest comedy, That 70s Show, followed by a Fox special, Inside the X-Files. It all starts tonight at 7, 6 Central on Fox. Get off that plane, and I know you just jump right into that daddy's chair and just watch the TV tonight.
Yeah, I'll get a little of that action right there. I'm home alone this weekend.
Are you?
Oh, yeah, the wife's on a business trip, so...
You get to own the remote. Lucky dog.
I'll be owned by the baby is what'll happen.
1st and 10. The Rams will give it to Hill. No room on the right side. Penetration coming from Tony Williams, number 94 for the Vikings.
A lot of talk down there on the Rams side about who's calling the plays. They went back and forth with that. Right now, Dick Vermeil is the guy calling the plays. He sends it in to Mike White, who in turn sends it to Tony Banks' helmet.
You see Vermeil's holding that sheet now. He says when he's calling a good game, he folds that thing up and sticks it under his arm. He doesn't need it. 2nd and 11. Banks looking for Conwell. Overthrows middle. Intercepted by Robert Griffith. Griffith's got some room on the right sideline. Amp Lee will bring him down at the 29-yard line. A 17-yard return on the interception from Robert Griffith.
Uh-oh, there's a helmet off, and that should be a flag.
There's several flags.
Unsportsmanlike conduct.
Dwayne Rudd appears to be a little upset over there.
That's just a bad ball. I mean, that's the worst throw on the field.
Tried to force it in there to Conwell.
Rudd better cool his jets.
And there's Jerry Ball, the elder statesman of the Vikings, trying to hold his young rookie or his young second-year man back.
Now, did Foch take his helmet off? I don't think he ever had one on.
Yeah, they're pointing at the Vikings. Looked like it was after the interception, so Minnesota should end up with the football. Just where is the question?
Helmet violation, number 57 of the intercepting team. That's a 15-yard penalty. It will be 1st and 10.
Yeah, and what that does is it really takes the Vikings out of pretty darn good field position after a turnover. So in the big scheme of things, yeah, it hurts a lot. Now, Conwell is going to work up the field, up the seam. You're going to see 2 white shirts on him. There's absolutely no throw there for Tony Banks. I mean, that's a hard throw. He overthrows it because he has to overthrow it because a man is underneath trailing. And that was actually Clemens, defensive lineman.
Missed exchange in the backfield. Johnson will keep it, and he'll be knocked down by Dr. Jones, Mike D. Jones, at the 40-yard line. A little miscommunication in the backfield.
On that other play, Ray, it looked like an interception. It looked like Dwayne Clemens was running up the seam with the tight end there.
Johnson's numbers, 9 of 16. The touchdown to Glover and the interception. 2 wide receivers in for the Vikings. 2nd and 8. Leroy Horde in the game for the first time. Bounces it outside where Toby Wright takes a shot at him. And there is a penalty marker down on the field.
Yeah, they're probably going to get a holding. And it happens because the penetration was so fast by the Rams. And, you know, everybody talks about John Randall being on the other side of the ball, along with Jerry Ball being very quick and fast off the ball. Well, DeMarco Farr for the Rams is another guy that's quick.
Holding, number 29, offense, 10 yards. Repeat the down, 2nd down.
They got big Chuck Evans, the fullback for the Vikings.
This play gets busted because of what happens inside. Watch this. See, DeMarco is in so fast that he really caused everything to bounce, and then a nice play on the outside by Jones. He's the one who forces it to bounce again. You get a running play to bounce twice, and Ray, you know that. I mean, Christie almost can't get out. Then he bumps into Evans, puts him in a bad position.
Just throws everything off. The timing of the blocks is destroyed.
What do they call that? That's good love right there. When you come up and take a force on. My man Ray Bentley here, he's done enough of that.
I've given some good love in my day.
There's no such thing as bad love when you're alive.
Scars to prove it.
I thought you were getting that look in your eye before the game. I had to move over.
Yeah, second and long for the Vikings from midfield. They'll dump it outside. Leroy Horde with the reception and some room, and he gets a block downfield. He didn't get close to first down yardage. Jake Reed out there paving the way.
Nice call by Brian Billick, the offensive coordinator. What is he doing? He realizes the Rams are going to drop a lot of people in coverage and rush not so many, but he's going to play with his running backs. Toss the ball out to the perimeters. Let them catch it and make the yards. At that time, Horde had at least 15 yards of green in front of him when he caught the ball.
Third down and 1 after the pickup of 16 by Horde. He stays in the backfield. Carter in motion. Johnson will sneak it, puts his head down and drives forward for first down yardage.
You know, for a guy to have the neck injury he had last year, you kind of wonder when you see a play like that.
Drop that head and just pile on in there.
And you know, he's got free reign to do a lot. We talked about his years in the World League and how he's had time to develop off the practice squad and all that. Well, the Viking coaching staff has a lot of confidence in him. And a lot of times, Billick, the offensive coordinator, will just give him personnel and basically let him call his own plays out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't just call his own number on that play.
Called it for the first down. The Vikes to the 33. Johnson, play action. Looking outside. He's got Andrew Glover, the big tight end, for another huge pickup down to the 10-yard line.
What a throw. What a throw.
22 yards on the play.
He went over in the pregame show with Terry Bradshaw about how he had trouble throwing the football and it would slip out of his hands and how he had to work back into that. Well, this is a good example of how he's gotten all that back. Look at this touch. Now, Brad's always thrown a wobbly ball, but it's on the money. And Jones, the linebacker, that's Styles, the linebacker. If he just turns around a hair earlier, he might make the play. That's still a nice touch.
Just over the hand of Styles. Carter motions to the right. Johnson looks that way, and it's Chris Carter knocked away in the end zone by Todd Light.
What a play. And you know it's a good play because when Chris Carter doesn't get up complaining, and he's talking to Light right there. When Carter doesn't get up complaining, it must have been a pretty good play. He's just going to come inside on the slant route. Watch the way right here that Light just hangs on his shoulder. Now he comes with the upfield hand. He doesn't drive through Carter. He just reaches around and makes a very nice play.
That play will bring up second down and goal from just inside the 10. Carter motion to the right again. Smith to the left. And he'll pick up 2 yards.
You got to remember, Ray, the Rams last week against the Saints only allowed 35 yards rushing, about 1.5 per rush. That was number 1 in the NFL. And people laughed and they said, well, it's just the Saints. Well, guess what? The Vikings got over 1,000-yard rusher in Robert Smith and a huge offensive line, and they're doing a pretty good job of it today.
Defensive line combined on that tackle. DeMarco Farr and Mike D. Jones in there. You see the rushing tally so far for the day. Big play here. Third down and goal to go for the Minnesota Vikings. Johnson will throw. Dumps it underneath to Jake Reed. He is stopped. Keith Lyle comes up from his safety position with the stop along with Billy Jenkins.
Like we said, the Rams with Bud Carson gone, the famous defensive coordinator in the league for a lot of years. He retired last year, but they're still using a lot of his stuff. And a lot of his stuff is not only blitz heavy, but involved aggressive play by the safeties. And that time we saw the safeties coming down and making a good play.
Peter Junta, the co-defensive coordinator, along with John Buckland, has to be happy. Gary Anderson on for the field goal, and he nails it. A 24-yarder for Anderson. And the Vikings go up by 10 now, 17-7.
Good news for the Rams. They don't allow the touchdown, and they force the Vikings that really got a very good break if it were not for the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on field position. So to hold them to a field goal, the Rams really did a pretty good job. But good news also for the Vikings. They come down and they don't get completely snuffed out. They make points.
They get points on the board. Coming up next, two legends of the game will square off. Troy Aikman of the Cowboys going to go up against John Elway of the Super Bowl Broncos, coming up from Mile High. This is going to be a ball game. I can't wait to get back and watch this.
That's an old West shootout right there. That's going to be a tough one for Dallas going to Denver.
I thought the triplets were dead. What happened?
Triplets. Funny, they don't look alike. Well, I tell you, they still got the core guys. And people will say, well, it's just Arizona. But you know what? Those guys come to play, and as long as they got that core, they can win games. And that guy on the far right, Irving, boy, I tell you, he comes to play every single week. That guy comes to play every week, too. That hat, he better come to play.
St. Louis receiving the kickoff. This one will go out of bounds from Mitch Berger.
Boy, take it at the 30.
You betcha.
I wouldn't even mess with it.
Take the ball, 1st and 10, 40-yard line.
Take it at the 40.
Excuse me, the 40.
30-yard.
Yeah, that's right. Excuse me, the 40. That's even better field position.
Yeah, we'll take it. They'll take it at the 40. Will the Rams, and they're...
Now you got to go through Gary Zahner, the special teams coach. Now he's got to explain what happened there. You can see he's not real happy.
Not at all. And Berger kicked off excellently last week against Tampa Bay. Kind of shanked that one. Hill and Harris in the backfield. This will be Greg Hill on the cutback. Picks up 8 quick yards as the running game looks pretty good for these St. Louis Rams. Brought down by Dwayne Clemens.
They got the guy in there running the ball that they wanted, Greg Hill. But the whole thing is finding out, like we said, where 93 is going to be and then working away from it. Now, he was on the backside, the left side, so what do? They stretch the defense to the left and run the cutback to the right.
2nd and 1. And Banks will throw. He's got Isaac Bruce for a first down. Hit immediately by Corey Fuller.
Now, if they take Randall on the outside, now they're going to move him inside. And the thing he knows he's going to see is a double team. That time it was a back coming in to help out. And that's what Howie Long talked about in the pregame, getting help on Randall. And that's just a nice turn route by Isaac Bruce. You got to find a way to give yourself help on him when he's inside, I think, or outside. You can either be a tight end or chip with a receiver, or that time have a back.
Bruce, 3 receptions and 41 yards here in the first half. This one's down on the ground. Bruce almost had it. Fuller with the coverage.
Randall right there inside again. Now it looks like he's got the one-on-one with Uyghur. That's the one they expect him to win. I tell you what, Zach Uyghur, we go do from Nebraska, did a pretty good job on that one.
Not bad at all. 4-year man. A number 2 pick for the Rams in 95, Zach Uyghur. It'll be 2nd and 10 now for Tony Banks.
And that's why it's important for someone else on the Vikings defensive line to step up and make plays.
Or blitz, which they break. It'll be Harris with a reception. He'll pick up 3 yards before he's hammered out of bounds by Dwayne Rudd.
Looks like Wayne Gandy, the right tackle, getting up kind of slow. And this is the part of the game where Tony Banks has been very good, Ray. The 2-minute. We saw it last week against New Orleans. And he calls his own plays. And they're not in the 2-minute yet, but just this part of the game he's heading into is where he excels. He says, I don't think as much, and I just react, and it's my game.
3rd down and 5. Gerald Moore checks in for the first time. He's next to Banks in the shotgun. Moore with 3 fumbles last week. Banks will throw it out to the left side. It's going to be incomplete. Broken up by Dwayne Rudd, intended for Eddie Kennison.
once again on the outside shoulder of Uyghur. And what do? They bring the back down. That's Gerald Moore, 44. No matter where the guy is, you got to know you got to get extra help.
53-yard attempt from Jeff Wilkins is good. It's a career long. The previous 52 yards, Wilkins hits from 53.
Key play there. The Rams really couldn't afford to come away with no points on that drive. And they were in that gray area. And know this, if you miss the field goal outside the 20 like that, the ball is taken over by the other team at the spot of the kick. So you're talking about pretty darn good field position with 2:24 left to give the Minnesota Vikings.
And it goes back to the Mitch Berger kickoff that gave St. Louis excellent field position to start that drive. The Rams close to within 7, 17-7 Minnesota. 2:24 left in our first half.
The Rams have been able to make some big plays, and that's been the key. And then they got out of that slow start mode, Ray, relatively quick. And then I think they need more big plays, and you know, they're a team that we saw a little trickery in there with the end around. I think there'll be some more of that too.
Well, these Rams, Dick Vermeil says, I know they can come back. They've been coming back against people. What they need to do is get the confidence to get a decent start. They started in a hole 14-0. The comeback came early.
Yeah,
the comeback came early.
Yeah, he said we have to come back so many times, and we're good at it.
Yeah. Wilkins boots it deep. David Palmer from the goal line. Lit up at the 15. Billy Jenkins on special teams. Return of 15.
That'll go down as one of the woo licks that Ronnie Lott talks about. And nobody coaches this better than Frank Gantz's special teams coach. Each man 100% eye on the prize, and that time David Palmer is the prize. Good job by Jenkins, who really was quite criticized here last week for some mental errors that led to some big plays by the Saints.
Right, only his third start, filled in for Toby Wright and had some problems. Now for the Rams defense, Robert Smith busts off the right side for a pickup of 10 quick yards. He's brought down by Todd Light and Keith Lyle. And that will bring us to our 2-minute warning with Minnesota ahead of St. Louis 17-10. Coming up, the Visa Halftime Report. JB, Terry, Howie, and Chris will have scores and highlights from around the league, and our Fox Sports ticker will have up to the second stats. That's all coming up on the Visa Halftime Report. First and 10 for Brad Johnson. Oh, Randy. Look out, here goes Robert Smith. He might go the distance.
Jenkins got to catch him.
20, 10, 5, touchdown. Robert Smith, 74 yards.
Robert Smith is a world-class sprinter, a track runner at Ohio State. And we talked about this on film the other day, Ray. You know, when he gets going, he'll lean those hips back, lean the shoulders back, and get into that 200-meter, 400-meter sprint stride, and it's all over.
Robert Smith took it to the house.
And that play happened because they got outmatched with the number of people inside that tackle box, which we talk about. They're thinking 2 minute, they're thinking pass all the way, and they come out with the run.
Gary Anderson on for the try, and that is good. Robert Smith, 12 carries, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the first half alone.
Look at the middle of the field here, okay? There's not many people there, but you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in the box, you run the football. That's the rule of thumb. Because the theory is that they don't have enough people to match up with your people. They get a little cutback going, and because everybody else, like the corners, are in coverage, you can't make it work. And then you see there Smith. He gets into that stride, and it's all over with. So you notice how there's no help anywhere. Look at the corners. Look at McNeil. They're all matched up. Great block by Randy Moss. And the safeties can't get there.
Well, the safeties took a bad angle. Keith Lyle slipped on that, and then gave Smith his break outside.
You know, Moss here, knowing the run, he's just got to try to hold his man. That little push there, but Bray, you make a great point. The safety there slipped inside, coming down. Watch the offensive line. They just got to get the flow going this way, and then let Robert do all the work.
Right.
Bam, so he's got that. And that's the difference.
Mitch Berger set to kick this off. The crowd has gone quiet. Tony Horn and J.T. Thomas deep to receive. This will be Tony Horn at his 4-yard line. Horn stays alive. He'll bring it out to the 23. A return of 19 yards.
That just may be the biggest play of the game. I don't know if the Rams can recover from that. Not from a point standpoint, as we look at Robert Smith's numbers on the day, but just from a morale standpoint. I mean, that's a huge blow going in at half.
Yeah, that's what they call a deflator. Knock the wind right out of you. Smith, his second rushing touchdown, that is a career high for Robert Smith in a football game. It came in the first half against the Rams. Banks with no timeouts will work from the shotgun. Pressure's on. He dumps it to Ernie Conwell, a wide open Conwell.
You can't be any more wide open than Ernie Conwell was. I mean, he could have just underhanded the ball.
Banks again had pressure.
And now, but Banks is in a position where he's got to press. Like we said, he's been good in this position, but he's got to be good against a front four that's going to come back, pull the ears back, and come back and get him.
And he's got to overcome 2 interceptions, and then, of course, the huge Robert Smith run. And the Rams are down right now, emotionally. They'll throw it outside. They've got a little room without Bruce. Bruce fumbles out of bounds. They'll say he was down. Robert Griffith on the stop.
No, he can't fumble well. Yeah, he can't fumble that ball forward anyway, but the clock is still moving.
First and 10 from the 35 for the Rams. Minute 15 left in the first half. Banks throws it outside, timing to Eddie Kennison. Corey Fuller slides a hand in and knocks it away.
We could hear that ball hit his chest all the way up here. They have the deep out. Very nicely timed. Kennison just drops the ball.
Looks like Corey Fuller got a little hand in there, a sneaky little hand from the backside, and disrupted Kennison's concentration. Second down and 10.
The rough part about this whole deal, the Rams don't have any timeouts. They burned them all in substitution problems early.
Banks with time, running out of time, dumps it outside to Amp Lee, and Lee will get out of bounds and stop the clock with 1 minute and 3 seconds left.
Amp Lee has been his guy in a 2-minute situation. Looking at Mike White right there, the quarterback's coach. Kurt Warner, number 10, the backup quarterback, third-string quarterback. He's actually signaling in the play to Tony Banks. Mike White gives it to him, and then Kurt Warner sends it in.
Thomas and Prohl to the right, Kennison to the left. Isaac Bruce checked out of the ball game. Third down. Banks will throw it out the backfield to Ernie Conwell. Conwell picks up first down yardage to the 47.
They got a flag though, Ray.
There's a flag on the left side of the field. Looks to be the area of defensive holding.
Illegal formation, number 76, not on the line of scrimmage.
They got Orlando Pace.
Repeat the down.
Lining up in the backfield.
You know, the new rules say that the tackles and all the offensive can come back as far as their head to the center's belt buckle. And so, you know, not naturally guys cheat it to the point where they look like H-backs back
Right,
there.
and Jerry Ball said, you watch, their whole offensive line will line up in the backfield.
And that's the importance of working the officials before the game. So, hey, watch the linemen lining up in the backfield.
So it'll nullify the first down. And Tony Tony Banks will go 3rd and 12 from his 33. And he overshoots Eddie Kennison. He had Hitchcock falling down. Had that been in there, it could have been something.
You see all the bodies there. That's another good reason for Orlando Pace lining up in the backfield. He's trying to get a jump on that heat that's coming up the field. And when you're trying to block guys like Randall, you will take an extra few steps and rock back to put yourself in a position to block that.
Rick Tootin will let this one go. David Palmer at his own 24.
Tootin.
That's what we used to call it in the Buffalo days. Tootin. Palmer from the 20. Changes his mind, and he's got room on the sideline. And he'll get knocked out of bounds by Tootin at the 41. Coming up on the Visa halftime report, JB, Terry, Howie, and Chris will have the scores and highlights from around the league, and our Fox Sports ticker will keep you up to date, up to the second on the stats. That's all coming up on the Visa halftime report. Minnesota with 40 seconds left, 2 timeouts, decent field position, just 60 yards to go. They got a chance to put more points on the board.
Yeah, they do.
Up 24-10. Brad Johnson with Leroy Horde in the backfield. 3 wide receivers. Johnson looks to his right. He's got Randy Moss. He's trying to get out of bounds. This guy looks
how smart. You know, the presence of mind and know exactly what the situation is, even though they have 2 timeouts, and know that he's got to get himself out of bounds, though, to preserve those timeouts. Moss is outside right here. He's just going to do a little turn route. But now watch this. He knows where everybody is. He knew he had a block from Chris, and he knew he had to get the first down and then get out.
1st and 10. 5th catch on the day for Moss. Johnson dumps it out to Leroy.
Now they got to burn
the backfield, and now they will burn that timeout just inside the 40-yard line of the Saints, where Mike Anthony Jones makes the tackle. This week on Fox, Saturday, baseball teams will be gearing up for the postseason as the Yankees take their incredible regular season record into Baltimore to take on the Orioles, and we'll have other regional action. Coverage begins at 12:30 Eastern and Pacific with In the Zone right here on Fox. Check your local listings. Here's the races that they're going on right now, and it's going to be down to the wire with some of this baseball stuff.
Well, you know, with the McGuire thing, everybody, I don't know if people...
Oh, there's a pennant race, you mean?
Yeah, I don't know if people realize, hey, there's still a pennant race going.
Thought it was a home run chase, not a pennant race. 295 total yards of offense for the Vikings in the first half alone. Johnson rolled outside. He'll be picked by Todd Light.
He got it. That's an interception. What a play.
Looking for Chris Carter. Todd Light steps in front and steals it away.
I tell you, Todd Light is going to school today. Now, that ball was thrown a little late, and Light just got a great break. Look, he's looking all the way, but it's the closing distance that's the key. And then he catches it with his hands, Ray.
And got his feet down.
You know, he's able to close up the distance between the ball and the time the ball gets to the receiver and make the catch. And I don't know, Ray, that ball was awful wobbly.
Yeah,
I know that Brad said he feels good, and his throwing motion has looked good, and he's always thrown a little wobble ball, but boy, that one was wobbly and had some steam off it.
Yeah, didn't have a lot of zip on it. Johnson was rolling while he threw, didn't get to really get set. Banks will throw it outside to Isaac Bruce. Bruce across midfield to the 48-yard line before Robert Griffith runs him out of bounds. A pickup of 16. Bruce snatched it out of the air.
Yeah, and that's one thing that the Rams coaches, especially Dick Vermeil, is so high on. He said he's never seen a receiver snatch the ball out of the air like Isaac Bruce can.
It's almost like Miyagi with chopsticks going after flies.
Now, this is a great opportunity for the Rams to get points going into half.
14 seconds left, no timeouts. Banks will have to throw it along the sideline from his 48. This is a gift interception for Robert Griffin. And we're just going back and forth, the ping pong match.
That one was real late.
got to know Griffith was overplaying that out.
Yeah, you're right. Well, it was so late that Griffith he had to almost stop and wait on the ball.
Like an outfielder.
He just had to make sure he got under it.
Tony Banks, his third interception in the first half.
Saw Coach Fazio, the defensive coordinator over there, talking to Griffith, making sure that he wasn't getting any bad habits, but just made a good play on it.
Second interception of the day for Robert Griffith. A seesaw battle with interceptions closing out our first half of play. And that's the end of the first half with the score. Minnesota 24, St. Louis 10. Fox NFL Sunday will continue with JB, Howie, Terry, and Chris with the Visa halftime report after these messages and a word from your local Fox station.
Welcome to the Visa Halftime Report. Visa, the preferred card of the NFL that's everywhere you want to be.
Back here in Studio 2A for the Visa Halftime, full house indeed. Let's get you caught up on the scores around the National Football League. I'll tell you that Robert Smith, 121 yards in the first half. How many weapons can the Vikings have all over the Rams? 24-10.
Brett Favre, little spinner on the old hand, says, go ahead and get him, boys. Santana Dotson says, all right, I'll do just that. Gets inside of Middleton, the right guard, strips the ball. Bonnie Holiday, #1 draft choice, scoops it up. This sets up a 10-yard touchdown pass. You got it. Get used to it. Tyrone Davis comes inside the coverage. Brett Favre finds him. There's a nice Packer fan. Backs on top. Reggie White in on Gifford. Third sack on the day for Reggie. 179 and 1/2 sacks of a career for Reggie White. 16-0 pack over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The seat's a little hot for Wanstead in Chicago, but his Bears are playing hard.
He's got his defense playing well. Now he needs some offense. Kramer says, all right, I'll give you some man-to-man coverage on the outside. Dwayne Washington can't make the stop on Bobby Ingram. Excellent throw and catch. 54 yards later, Bears up by 6 as Yeager mixes the extra point. But back comes the bus. Jerome Bettis up the middle. Breaks pass. Throws that head back like that. You know he's not going very far. 42-yard gain. Sets up a 1-yard Bettis run. 9-7 Bears after a Yeager field goal over the Steelers at Three Rivers Stadium.
2 starts last year. Werfel couldn't direct them to a point, but today,
man-to-man coverage, blitz on the outside, corner too far off, safeties are nowhere in sight. Sean Dawkins, come a free agent out of Indianapolis, catches it, 64 yards later. Hey, Saints, go get him. But Floyd, 1-yard run, touchdown, ties it up. And then, what, JB?
14-10 to score. That's what the den is. Hey, here is another den. Bobby Hoying couldn't direct the Eagles to a point last week,
but he only had 63 yards last week, but he finds Deuce Staley. Good name, hard to say. Deuce Staley down to the 1. Give it to Deuce Staley. And he goes in for 1 to the touchdown. That's the Eagles take a 9-0 lead over the Falcons.
Good. We got more scores in Miami. All tied at 7 there. Eric moves 4 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Jaguars 14-6 over the Chiefs. Reggie Barlow, 85-yard punt return for a touchdown. Jets trailing the Ravens by the score of 14-7 in that one. That one in the third quarter. And give Collinsworth Bengals a little credit. They're on the board.
Well, they're on the board. Earlier they were tied, which was amazing, but down they're losing by 7. And of course the Oilers finally playing at home at Vanderbilt Stadium, 7-6 over the visiting Chargers and Ryan Leaf, the young rookie quarterback.
Minnesota, St. Louis. The question I ask, how many weapons can Minnesota have? Robert Smith looking impressive, 121 yards first half.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's the key to that team. It used to be, you could sort of go Green Bay, San Francisco, Dallas, and that would be the teams that simply would be from the NFC. They're going to be your representative. Now I think you've got to throw Minnesota into that mix as well. And if Robert Smith can stay healthy and give them the balance with that passing game and some on the run, then all of a sudden this team looks very much like a competitor to win it all.
Yeah, I tell you, Robert Smith, nobody benefits from this more than Robert Smith, this Moss acquisition. And it's just a matter of time before Moss becomes a number 2 receiver and Jake Reed becomes a number 3 receiver. They go 3 wideouts. They spread the offense out, 1 back, 1 tight end. They've involved Glover this week. They didn't involve him last week. Just another weapon they have. If they just get an inkling
Say that again.
Little bit.
Say that again.
Say that again.
A little bit.
That's like deuce. If they get a deuce of a defense, they're in the hunt.
I'm gonna tell you what, if Banks doesn't pick his act up in the next 14 games, you're going to look for a new quarterback. I'll tell you what, the Rams will
They're going to be in position to
five
go on.
good ones. There's 5 good ones in college.
Randy Moss blocking. I love it. Deuce. Second half of Minnesota and St. Louis coming your way after this.
Get it out.
Welcome back to St. Louis, Missouri, where the Minnesota Vikings have a 24-10 lead over the St. Louis Rams at halftime. All right, all you nudniks, get ready for this one. There's a new weekly feature on FoxSports.com. You call it. This week's question is, which team, will the Vikings or the Rams, score the final points of today's game? Log on to FoxSports.com to give your opinion. We'll return to the Transworld Dome for the start of the second half after these messages from your local Fox station. The Minnesota Vikings have a 24-10 St. Louis halftime lead. Hello, everybody. I'm Ray Bentley, along with my broadcast partner, Ron Pitts. And there's a new feature on Fox this year, Ask the Pro. And we have Lars Blue from Bagley, Minnesota, called in, Ronnie. Yeah. And he wants to know, are the Vikings going to do anything this year?
Well, yeah, of course they will. And all you got to do is look at, like we said, the firepower they have on offense, the 3 wide receivers, and Moss really rounds out that crew. You know, they have the ability with a tight end to make plays. And then the great running game along with the quarterback really makes it all exciting. Brad Johnson can make the plays, very consistent, doesn't make the mistakes. And you saw that big run by Robert Smith. I think that really kind of sums up the way this offense will play this year. And they're going to throw a monkey wrench in the division like they do every year, if not win the division. I think they're just that good.
Well, Lars, I hope that answers your question. Let's take a look at Robert Smith's touchdowns today. Ronnie, he's just blown through this line. Here's the first one.
Yeah, you know, and it's all outside, whether it's a cutback or it's a handoff off tackle. And he's got the speed there. We see that sprinter stride that he gets into, and you're just not going to catch him. They've got the great offensive line. But then you go to the other side of the ball, Ray, and everybody talks about John Randall, what they've gotten. Derek Alexander, he's playing well, too. The linebacking core, they're fast, and they can make the big plays. That's why I think Minnesota will have a good year this year. You look at the stats, the turnovers is really the only thing that's keeping the Vikings down at this point, and they've led to 10 points. But for the Rams, the turnovers are the thing that's really killed them.
Well, you look at the yardage from the Vikings, the explosiveness of that offense, the huge run, the 74-yarder from Robert Smith, and Randy Moss has been all over it in the first half. But let's look at how they worked against John Randall in this first half.
You know, you got 2 ways you can do them. You could double team him, and that time they tried to single team him, and obviously it didn't work. And he goes inside. You can see they got help with the tight end. If he goes inside, you got a better chance to double him. That time a back comes up and helps him. Here he's going to see the back again. That's just working one-on-one with Wayne Gandy. But either you got to use a back to come down late if he's inside the chip. You don't want to use 2 offensive linemen inside because it keeps you single and short-handed on the other side. And you look there, he is not lined up at the end position so far.
Mitch Berger bangs it away to start our second half. Tony Horn from the end zone. Lit up at the 12-yard line. My goodness, what a pop coming in there.
They said, let's just have a meeting at Horn's Chips around the 12-yard line.
Robert Tate, backup wide receiver, he blew things up early in the second half. So the St. Louis offense will get started again with poor field position from their own 14-yard line.
Yeah, going back to that thing about Randall, like he said, he hadn't lined up outside, and that's what the Rams thought they would see. They had done their protection schemes all week for Randall outside. So what do? They move him back inside to try to throw off the tendencies.
Randall spent a lot of time outside in the opener against Tampa Bay last week. Banks doubles out of the blocks and then fall back at the 10-yard line. Turf Monster got a tackle.
That's the kind of thing that poor football teams do. And the Rams don't want to head down the same deep, dark tunnel they went down last year. But those are the kind of things that started off. It's hard enough to play this game just being on your feet. You see right there?
His center got
The center stepped on his foot. That happens a lot. But unfortunately, it happens. When it does happen, you get your snake bit.
Right. That's when them size 14s meet up with them size 13s. Banks will throw on second down, drills it into Conwell, his tight end. Ernie Conwell's first reception. Ed McDaniel with the coverage and the tackle.
Well, how about Ed McDaniel? Is he a character or what? His thing now is to be a movie critic. He rates every movie. He can tell you about every single movie, whether or not the acting is good, whether or not the plot is worth anything, how long the running time is, how much the movie costs, and what theater you can find it at. And still play pro football. That's talent.
And plays well. 135 tackles a year ago to lead the Vikings. Banks out of the shotgun. Tries for the sideline, and he does pick up Isaac Bruce with the reception, and they'll mark it good enough for first down yardage. Pick up of 10 yards.
I think Tony Banks works best when you put him on the half roll, or the dash play as they call it. Why? Because that gets him out of the pocket, and he's such an athlete that he's better doing things while he's on the move. And his vision increases. He can see more back there. He's a tall kid now. You're talking a guy 6'4 and a half, pushing 6'5". He can see well anyway, but I just think he's used to that basketball type play and style that when you get him on the perimeters, he feels more comfortable.
He was an outfielder in the Twins organization. Used to throwing out there on the run. Conwell with another reception to the 30-yard line before Dwayne Rudd brings him down.
You know, Zach Wiegert has been matched up man-to-man without help a lot of times on John Randall today, and he's done a pretty darn good job. Now, Wiegert is nothing small. He goes about 6'5", 310. Right there. Watch this matchup. First thing Wiegert does, he gets his hands on him, and then he keeps him away from his body so Randall can't grab him and pull him. And if you can do that and then move your feet, you got a chance.
That's the key, the feet. The feet kept moving, and he stayed with John Randall. 2nd and 5. Vikings blitz. Great hit with the ceiling. He's wide open at the 4. He comes back to the 45, 46-yard line before he is corralled. They caught him in a blitz for a 16-yard pickup. Ed McDaniel and Orlando Thomas on the stop of Greg Hill.
They came with the run blitz that time, hoping to hit a gap. But a lot of times you pick wrong. Watch Griffith work inside and watch where it bounces. Boy, I'm surprised that Dixon didn't come back and recognize that play. He didn't even see it. Went right back across his face.
1st and 10. Banks will hand it to Hill again. He'll work outside to his right. He's tracked down by Dwayne Rudd again. Dwayne Rudd. I'm telling you, this guy is one of the best young linebackers in all of football.
Well, you think about the linebackers that come out of Alabama. You automatically think of guys like Cornelius Bennett, Derek Thomas.
There's a couple good ones.
And they're all like that. And he said, oh, yeah, you know, when you're at Alabama, they're the gods and you're just a peon passing through.
Well, he's soon to be a god if he continues to play this way.
I wonder, why don't they just put his hand down and let him rush, come off the corner somewhere?
He's too valuable inside making plays. And they have good people up front. 2nd and 9, let's call it Tony Banks. He'll dump it underneath. He's got Greg Hill, his first reception of the day, and Hill takes a shot from Dwayne Rudd.
Now, we talked about the matchup with John Randall on Zach Wiegert, and Wiegert being a strong, physical guy. But now, let's see what happens when he goes on the other side against Fred Miller, who had some problems last week. Miller goes to his face right away, gets pushed back late. But that's why you have to have the timing, and that's why they've been coaching so much for Tony this week. Tempo is important. We don't have all day with that guy on the other side of the field.
Big play, 3rd down for the Rams. Greg Hill powers his way to a first down up the middle. Let's take a game break. We'll go out to our network center in Los Angeles and James Brown.
Ray and Ron, things continuing to go bad for Tampa Bay. Dilfer out due to leg cramps. Walsh is in. Walsh promptly throws a pick to Tyrone Williams. Dilfer getting IV right now. He is expected to return. Right now it's still 16-0 Green Bay. Back to Ray and Ron.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, unfortunately, pulled a rough lot. They had to go to Minnesota in the opener. Then they got to go to Green Bay. And that's a first down.
St. Louis. The drive stays alive. We're seeing a lot of Greg Hill on this drive. We're also seeing a lot of Dwayne Rudd, who led the Vikings with 12 tackles in the opener. He has 7 already this afternoon. Gerald Moore checks in, gives Greg Hill a breather on 1st and 10. Play action. Banks throws a dangerous ball, looking for Eddie Kennison. Griffith almost over there for the trifecta, along with Orlando Thomas.
You see Banks pointing to himself there. He's letting a couple fly high.
His timing's up, let's see.
Yeah, his timing's up, but that ball's sailing on him, which usually means you're not setting completely and letting it throw. He looked like he set pretty well there.
He overthrew it. Actually, that could have been caught easily by Eddie Kennison.
That ball should have been caught. He pointed to himself, but that ball's got to be caught. See, nope, that's a stat that doesn't show up.
Drop ball.
Yeah, when Carter or Reed make those great catches.
Banks will throw it again. Lee, run on the coverage. Lee almost made the great catch, and then he looked for the flag right away. Tony Banks 4 of 6 for 26 yards so far on this drive.
We talked about Rudd's quickness, and that pays off when you're in a position you have to cover.
Brings up a 3rd down and 10 now. And Banks will go to the shotgun. And he'll take a timeout. Running out of time on the play clock. Rams on 3rd down. When we return, they trail Minnesota by 14.
Fox NFL Sunday is brought to you by Coors Light. Frost brewed to tap the clean taste of the Rockies.
3rd and 10 for the St. Louis Rams. 11th play of this drive. Ronnie, they've had to burn 3 timeouts because they didn't have the right people on the field.
Right, that's just poor management of knowing what your substitutions need to be.
Banks from the shotgun. Good time. He'll scramble out of there.
Look who's chasing him.
Running and drop. Lights Tony Banks up over on the sideline. Now he's going to tell him about it.
As if he wasn't there to see it himself.
John Randall had the chase on this one.
Okay, now that's the first time Randall's been on the in position. So what do? They bootleg it out to the other side. And they try to get 2 on him. Wow, that's a hit. That's a hit.
The safety assassin. And Rick Tootin will have to boot this one away. David Palmer at his 10. Tootin with a sky ball.
That's a high kick.
Palmer will field it at the 22-yard line. And that's where the Vikings will be in business. They have a 24-10 lead. 9:32 left in the 3rd quarter. The Minnesota Vikings will take over on their 23-yard line. Their initial possession of the first half.
And was Griffith fired up after that hit or what?
He had me going up here.
Man. No, we don't want to get you going.
No,
you might have an inside linebacker flashback.
You might have something for me, though. I remember those days. It'll be Smith on 1st down. He'll pick up 3 yards. Wow. He is brought down by Joe Phillips and DeMarco Farr.
Randall McDaniel just buried somebody. Those are the kind of hits that just make you wonder, why am I out here? He drove somebody clear across to the other hash mark.
Randall McDaniel made his 140th consecutive start. He's been to 9 consecutive Pro Bowls. He ate up Warren Sapp for Tampa Bay last week. Johnson on 2nd and 7 will roll it outside. As the flag is on the field, he was brought down by Kevin Carter.
They're going to get Mike A. Jones. He just, for some reason, got in a grabbing match with the tight end and had enough of it. Or the tight end might have grabbed him.
A lot of grabbing going on. Referee Bob McElwee will sort it out for us.
Personal foul, 15
between the outside linebacker and the tight end goes on all day long. And sooner or later, somebody's going to get enough of it, get a little overheated, and then do that. Just go nuts.
Yeah, it will degenerate. It will get violent.
Great.
First down and 10 for the Minnesota Vikings at the 41, just shy of their own 41-yard line. Evans and Smith in the backfield.
See Brad checking off. 8 men in the box.
The blitz is coming. And he throws it outside to Jake Reed. Reed works on Todd Light for a first down.
That was a good picture. You could see why he checked off there. He saw the safety come down, making an 8-man front, which means they want to try to slam your run game. But if 8 men are down inside, that means you got 3 outside. It's probably man-to-man coverage outside, and that's why he threw the quick hitch and the quick out.
Brian Billick, the offensive coordinator, told us they don't really check off that many times, 4 or 5 times a game, but when they do, they expect success. Smith with success over to the right side again. Picks up first down yardage, forced out of bounds by Todd Light. And keep wide.
There's just so much weight on that right side. We talked about Big David Dixon, 71, but you also got Corey Stringer over there at 360. It's hard not to move people. And if anybody thinks these guys don't have a lot to do with Robert Smith's success, they're crazy. They have everything to do with it.
Corey Stringer, a 2-time All-Big Ten lineman of the year. His 46th start for these Vikings. Started every game since he came to Minnesota. 3 wide receiver package. Moss down on the left, and Johnson's looking for him in the end zone. Randy Moss will not catch this one. Dexter McCleon with good position, good inside coverage.
McCleon was beat, and what did Brad Johnson say? I have a hard time not underthrowing this guy because of his speed. He can just take off and get the ball.
Hasn't overthrown him yet.
Now McCleon will be beat here. See, he's looking in the backfield a little too much, but he gets his head around. And now he just cuts off and looks back at the ball. Had he not looked back at that football, they would have called interference, rightfully so. But he cut off the receiver, then looked back. Brad's got to lead Moss a little bit more on that throw, and then he would have had it.
Second down and 10. Leroy Ford in the backfield for the Vikings. Johnson will go for the screen to Horde, but it's covered up. And now the ball comes out, and it's picked up. This is Mike D. Williams, and he'll be run down by Leroy Horde. No, the big guy rolls over Horde down at the 13-yard line. DeMarco Farr made the hit. Mike D. Jones picks it up in a 38-yard return.
The discussion will be whether or not his hand was coming forward. Brad Johnson, if his hand was coming forward, then that is an incomplete pass. First of all, I think it's questionable whether or not it's in the grass. And that ball just slipped a lot like it slipped last year. You saw in the pregame show when he had trouble with the muscles in his forearm. Like I say, it's questionable in the grass, but that's just a fumble if they're not going to call that because it clearly came out before his arm was coming forward.
The fumble and then the rumble from Mike D. Jones puts the Rams first and 10. And Greg Hill will fight his way for a couple of tough yards in the middle. Jerry Ball makes the tackle. Mike D. Jones picked up from New England in the early preseason, has a huge play, moved into the starting lineup today for the first time.
Yeah, we keep talking about DeMarco Farr.
He made the play.
Still making plays. He wraps up Johnson.
Isaac Bruce in motion on 2nd and 7. Banks looks to throw. He's got Conwell, the tight end. Conwell doesn't want to go down. He'll pick up close to first down yardage as Dwayne Rudd and Ed McDaniel hang on to Ernie Conwell.
Conwell told us yesterday that his favorite route is that Y angle where he can work out to the flat and then option, depending on what the coverage is, go in or out. And that's what it looks like he did on that play. Got some heat on Banks right there, but Conwell, they say, is the strongest guy on the team. You know, he can bench press the world, squat the world, and it looked like it on that play, but he just kept going.
Third down and 1. They'll pitch it outside. This is Hill with a cutback inside. It's going to be close. I don't know if he got it. That's Ed McDaniel coming up with the tackle.
Well, and if I'm Vermeil, I'm going for this one.
You got to.
I'm going for this one. 24-10. I'm going. And you have to make the assumption that if you can't get a yard here, then you're not going to be able to get a yard anywhere the rest of the season. You have to know, your team has to get confidence somewhere that they can make a crucial conversion of a third down, actually a fourth down in this case, against a good team when they have to do it.
And Minnesota was strong in short yardage situations last week, stopping Mike Alstott on 3 out of 4 tries in 3rd and 2 or less.
First off, where's John Randall? That's number 1. He looks like he's on this side over here. Let's see if they go away from him.
Hill and Harris in the backfield. They'll run the same play, pitching out to Hill. He'll have room outside. Touchdown, St. Louis.
There was a lot of controversy last week on that man's shoulders right there, Dick Vermeil, for not starting Greg Hill in place of Gerald Moore. The team paid the price for it. The pressure was on, and so he went back to the guy who he felt could make plays and put the ball in the end zone and not fumble it in the end zone like they had last week.
Jeff Wilkins adds the extra point, and the Rams close the gap to 7. They trail now 24-17. 4 plays, 14 yards, ate up a minute 54 off the clock. St. Louis closes to within 7 on Greg Hill's 2nd rushing touchdown of the day, all set up by DeMarco Farr, forcing the fumble, and Mike D. Jones rumbling 38 yards with it. Wilkins kicks this deep. It'll be David Palmer in his end zone, and he'll down it. The Vikings will take it 1st and 10 from the 20-yard line. Greg Hill is turning into a story for these St. Louis Rams.
And funny thing about that, after last week when Dick Vermeil declared him inactive, all the players, all the offensive linemen came around his locker and said, hey, we just want you to know we're behind you. We don't believe in the decision, and you're still our guy. He said it almost brought tears to my eyes. Almost cried.
No
That's
crying
amazing.
in football.
Football?
Well, there's tears of joy right now for Greg Hill. 1st and 10 for Minnesota. Johnson will dump it outside to Robert Smith. Mike Jones forces him out of bounds. Mike A. Jones, pickup of 1 on the play. Brad Johnson, the fumble forced by DeMarco Farr, and this is a scary thing for Brad Johnson.
You know, this is the thing that happened to him in the Green Bay game last year when he started to develop that neck problem. It affected the nerve, which affected his grip on the ball. And the ball came out just like that. Now, this is a different situation. I think he's got somebody draped all over him, but
DeMarco Farr got on his nerves that time. 2nd and 9. Smith, no room up the middle. That Rams defense is fired up. It's Ray Agnew with the tackle. Last year, let's take a look at Brad Johnson and his throwing motion. We compared it last year to this year, or last year to last week, actually. He had to relearn how to throw a football.
He said he was so weak coming in for minicamp that he literally could not pick up a hat. And you can't tell a difference there, but he was so weak that he couldn't do anything, and gradually he got it back.
Had to retrain himself and relearn how to throw a football. Looks like he did a good job at that. 3rd and 6. Johnson with play action, and Kevin Carter's got him around the 10. He'll get it away, almost picked off by Charlie Clemens, and the Rams defense rises up. We
talked about the one force on the outside for the Rams. the ability to get Kevin Carter in the backfield. And you can just see the way the defensive front and the whole defense plays different after a score from your offense. I mean, this is a team sport, and what goes on the offensive side, regardless of what people say, does affect your mentality, how you play on the defensive side.
Mitch Berger, a beauty for the Eddie Kennison from the 30-yard line. Kennison restarts. He's got room up the field. He's wide open, crossing midfield. He's got the punter to beat, and he'll beat him. He's on the distance. Eddie Kennison, a 70-yard punt return for a touchdown.
Last year the guy had a slump, came out and didn't have any touchdowns last year. Now this year he's got 2, and one on a huge, very timely punt return.
Officially a 71-yarder. Wilkins tacks on the extra point, and we are all tied up in St. Louis. The Rams strike twice. 24-24, 3:37 left in the third quarter.
Fox NFL Sunday is brought to you by Southwest Airlines, proud sponsor of the NFL and official airline of the Super Bowl. By Porsche, who wish to remind you there is no substitute. By Microsoft, where do you want to go today? And by Visa, the official card of the NFL that's everywhere you want to be.
Eddie Kennison has taken the roof off the Transworld Dome. Third career punt return for a touchdown. Wilkins will kick this one out of bounds, and the Vikings will get good field position.
That, to me, makes no sense whatsoever. That is a huge, huge error. I mean, now you're going to give the Vikings the ball at the 40-yard line after a very, very big play. You've got the momentum, and the first thing you give them is field position.
So the Rams are back in this one. We're tied up 24-24 with 3:32 left in our third quarter. Points in the last 1 minute and 38 seconds. The Rams have tied this one up. Minnesota takes over on their 40. They'll give it to Smith. Smith with a crack in the middle. He'll pick up 8 yards on first down. Let's take a look at that touchdown return from Eddie Kennison.
The thing he's got to do, and he's been flirting with it all day, is make the first 2 guys miss. He sets up deception. He starts right, and then he just beats everybody right down the center of the field. And at first glance, I thought that maybe the Vikings were too bunched up, but that's where he beat them, was right down the middle of where they were bunched up. That's just a great job of returning, and that's Frank Gantz, the special teams coach.
2nd and 2. Nowhere to go for Smith.
You know what
Mike D. Jones with the stop.
You know what I thought, Ray, is that the Vikings last series got a little conservative. They came out, and they're still in regular people. 1 tight end, 2 wide receivers. And I think they thought with a 24-10 lead that they could just kind of run this thing out. Yeah. But now they're going to have to rethink this and get back into their 3 wide out mode when possible. Like right now.
Right now, Jake Reed and Chris Carter to the left. Randy Moss up top. Leroy Horde in the backfield. Moss in motion.
Rams will have the right personnel in the field.
2-man route. Chris Carter with the reception down to the 34-yard line. Keith Lyle on the coverage.
The Rams got caught, I believe, with the wrong personnel on the field. The Vikings had 3 wides and a tight end, but you see the linebacker there? He's out there on Chris Carter. That forces now, you go man-man with your safety on Chris Carter. That's not the matchup you want. That's why Lyle was playing so far off.
With that reception, Chris Carter ties James Lawson as his 6th all-time reception leader. Robert Smith takes it for 10 on the outside. That's 764 receptions in the career of Chris Carter.
That's a lot of catches. And that's a great story. He got together with Randy Moss. Right after Moss was drafted, Moss moved from Virginia down to Florida, Boca Raton. And Chris Carter has a very famous workout program that he goes through. Jake Reed's involved in it. And just being in that whole mix, he got on the right track then, and you can see it.
Really helped out Randy Moss. Helped himself as well. Johnson's will give it to Horde on 1st and 10. Horde picks up 3. Charlie Clemens with the stop on the right side along with Mike Jones.
Mike Tice, offensive line coach for the Minnesota Vikings. He's been out in the field more than the players have. I mean, something doesn't go right, or maybe it's going right. He's just out there letting people know.
Mike Tice only knows one way to get it done, and that is full speed. 2nd and 7 for the Vikings. Johnson. Looks too deep. Carter overthrows.
Wow, what a
one-hand grab.
What a catch.
But he's out of bounds with it. Good coverage from the safety, Keith Lyle, in the corner, Dexter McLeon. But how about that grab?
This is what Carter does so well. He's got excellent body control. He always knows where he's at. Now, there's no way he can get himself back in bounds to catch it. But look at that catch.
Roll it up the arm a little bit.
Watch
that's
this.
A trick catch.
That's one of them Harlem Globetrotters wide receiver catches. I think somebody gave a great analogy on that. He plays basketball on a football field, and he does.
3rd down, 7 yards. Pressure on Johnson. He finds Carter over the middle. And there are flags on the field.
Grant Wiestra was awful fast.
False start. 73.
Left tackle Todd Stussy, the guilty party. And the noise may have had something to do with it because this crowd is alive now in St. Louis.
Stussy right there. Now, that's what happens when you've been able to get a pass rush. The Rams have been able to use Kevin Carter at times, along with Farr inside, and so the tackles get a little nervous before that snap.
And that was rookie Grant Wistrom applying the pressure on that one.
Full blitz.
Johnson lets it go. He's looking for Carter.
Yeah, they got to call that. They got to call that.
They do not. Oh, no, they do. There is a flag down, and it looked like Light never looked back for the ball.
But they're talking about it. Now, he can face guard, but he can't make the contact. He made the contact. And Johnson got rocked.
Offensive pass interference. Number 47. Automatic first down.
They said 47. I believe it was Light 41. I may be mistaken. That's Little 57. He gets a shot.
Yeah, Light was on him
and the
early.
funny thing about it, Light actually makes the recovery in time. You get scared and you're beat, and now you recover. If he would have just turned around, he might have had another interception.
A little bit underthrown from Brad Johnson. The Vikings go 1st and goal from the 1. Leroy Horde squirms his way to the end zone. Touchdown, Minnesota. Leroy Horde. First touchdown of the year. And Minnesota answers the challenge.
That's the mark of a good team. A key break there on the pass interference, but they come down and answer. Watch the line surge. Watch the white shirts. Big Randall McDaniel coming by, getting a kick out, and a nice lead by Evans up there. And that's just a good effort, too, by Horde. He spins and was able to get that touchdown on the second effort.
Gary Anderson boots the extra point, and the Vikings go out at 7 points on the Rams. Leroy Horde. Let's give a listen to a touchdown. You always look at touchdowns. Sometimes it might help you to hear a touchdown. Boy, he took a pop from Eric Hill, but spun it inside and found pay dirt.
Now, Ray, you've been down inside like that before.
A few times.
What's that level? You know, I was a corner. I came off the field in short yardage goal line.
It was smart. Good by you.
What's it like when you're down in there with all those bodies?
I love the goal line because there's not a whole lot of dodging down there. It's pretty much straight ahead. And as a linebacker, as Eric Hill in that last one, you get back there and you get your sprinter start, you come and you just fly and you hit it if it moves.
Yeah.
Yeah, you come and you get into that end zone play, and that's where football is football. There ain't no fair dodging down
that's
there.
right. It's for real men only down there. And if you're not a real man, get off the field as fast as possible. Unless the coach takes you off, and he took me off. So I'm a real man.
You didn't go willingly, did you? He wanted to be out there. I guarantee you that. Mitch Berger will kick this one deep. Tony Horn from 1 yard deep. Horn with room on his side, on the left side. There's the penalty. It looks like a clip against the Rams again. Horn brings it out to the 23-yard line. 3 times last week the Rams had a penalty on kickoff return.
Block in the back, number 37 during the return. Half the distance, first down.
Mike Skurlock, the man that they got.
.37 Mike Skurlock. Oh, boy. I just don't understand. They say if you can read the number or the name, don't touch it.
The name was Kylie Wong coming down on coverage, and Skurlock hit him in the back. And that'll put the Rams back at their 8-yard line where they'll start this drive. Hill and Harris in the backfield. This will be Hill. He's got it up the middle. Dwayne Rudd corrals him, but not until Hill picks up 11 yards. 17th carry on the day for Greg Hill. They want to get him 29 or 30.
He said, I'll take it 30.
That may have been the last play in our third quarter as it winds down. See if Tony Banks wants to snap this thing. And he will not get it off. And that is the end of our third quarter with the score. Minnesota 31, St. Louis 24. Fox NFL Sunday will continue after a word from your local Fox station. St. Louis with a slow start has turned it back on in the second and third. Minnesota answers with that touchdown. The Rams will take the ball at the start of the fourth quarter from their own 20-yard line.
We talked about how they've been able to, in a way, neutralize that man for today. He's got some great pressures, but I think keeping him inside has helped the Rams because now they can get more help inside of him.
And they've done well with the cutback running game, pursuing Vikings defense. Tony Banks launches a middle. Isaac Bruce down to the 20, down to the 10, 5.
Touchdown.
Isaac Bruce, an 80-yard pass from Tony Banks.
I wonder if Mark McGuire has anything to do with all this.
They're going yard in St. Louis. The longest reception of Isaac Bruce's career, his first touchdown of the season.
And he just beats him, and that one's going to cost him some money, like 500 big ones, but you think he cares? Corey Fuller's playing off, and he's just going to blow him away. Fuller doesn't believe he's going deep, but he never recovers.
Well, what hands?
Tony Banks said they didn't believe in the Viking corners. They didn't feel they were great cover people. And it's coming to fruition.
Wilkins makes the extra point. We're all knotted up. 31-31 in the fourth quarter.
Fox NFL Sunday is brought to you by Dr. Pepper and your local Dr. Pepper bottler. Dr. Pepper, this is the taste. By Toyota, every day belongs to you. Make it count. Toyota, every day. By Budweiser, now is the perfect time to enjoy a fresh, cold, Beechwood-aged Budweiser. And by Propecia, talk to your doctor today.
It's a seesaw battle in St. Louis. 2 plays, 92 yards. The Rams answer. We're knotted at 31 as Wilkins hits it deep to Palmer. Palmer with an answer of his own. He'll get it up to the 29-yard line.
Got a flag.
More flags on the field. 24-yard return. We'll see what the call will be. Bring me through that touchdown.
Got the one-on-one matchup over here. And Bruce just blows by Corey Fuller. I mean, it's not like there was an 8-man front where they thought they'd have man-to-man and no help and blitz. He just rolled by him. John Randall right there. We showed in the pregame show about you have to have help chip on it. That's 1, 2 blocks, and now watch the back, Derek Harris. John Randall had to try to fight through 3 people to make that play. That is how you block John Randall. And that man right there, Jim Hannafin, the offensive line coach, he had the Hogs back in Washington, D.C. back in the day when they were doing everything. He's the man responsible for the good play they had back there.
1st and 10. The Vikes have tried Chuck Evans up the middle. Nowhere to go. It's Carter and Agnew on the stop. Isaac Bruce, his 18th 100-yard career game. He had one last week, and look at that. 7 for $159, and of course that touchdown.
They were amazed at his work ethic. He came in on Tuesday, everybody's day off, and everybody's sleeping till noon. He's out running routes, and Jim Hannafin, like we talked before, he said, I really don't mind seeing Randall inside. At least we got a chance to double it. Outside worried me.
Vikings go to 3 wide. Pressure is on, and the flags are down. Ray Agnew with the hit on Brad Johnson.
Watch the stunt down here at the bottom of the screen. The linebacker loops inside, far loops outside, and they just can't pick it up. That is a very good call by the 2 defensive coordinators for the Rams, Peter Junta and John Bunting.
Peter Junta pointing out to the guilty party. That would be Corey Stringer, guilty of the hold. The Rams will decline the penalty, bringing up a 3rd down and let's call it 7 yards for this Viking offense. And the Rams defense has been all that here in the second half. They played great last week in the second half against the Saints. They're doing it again this week.
And this is as good as football gets here. 3rd down, big play, and they got to get heat on the quarterback, and offense got to make a play.
Flag is down again as Johnson gets sacked. The ball is loose.
Stringer moved early, the right tackle.
See if the whistle is blown before the start of the play.
Prior to the snap, ball starts, 77 offense.
Corey Stringer
5 yards, 3rd down.
taken up. 2 penalties in a row.
That's what you say. They are right. They're shaking up. When the heat comes, those tackles get nervous because they know they got to get back and protect the quarterback. And we talk about this. Different fronts. The Rams come in. They show a lot of different mixes. Now he's going to sneak in real late. There he comes. And watch Stringer. See, they're mixed up because they're not sure who's going to have to protect where. And they get a little bit antsy and move back.
The Stringer belch cost Minnesota 5 yards. They'll go on 3rd and 13. Johnson will throw again. Looking outside for Moss. He's got Moss for a 1st down, working on Ryan McNeil. Randy Moss.
There's the dilemma for a corner. You know Randy Moss can take you deep. It's 3rd and long distance. You would think play him a little bit tighter or closer to the marker. But Ryan McNeil knows that this guy can blow his doors off. So he's going to give him some respect.
Brad Johnson's down, holding to his left leg or right leg.
Brad Johnson took some shots. He took a shot on that play before. Watch him here. See if we can pick up where he... You know what? I think he did it right before, that 2nd step before the setup. Watch the 2nd step before he sets up. That's serious.
Yeah.
That's serious.
Billy Joe Hobart last week blew out an Achilles tendon on this very turf.
He did that, Ray, right before that plant step. Now watch here. Watch the step or two before he plants for the setup on his right ankle. Right there, somewhere in there, it looked like... I don't know. Somewhere in there, he looked like he gave a little bit of a hitch.
That'll put Randall Cunningham into the lineup for the Minnesota Vikings.
Now, this is interesting. Brian Billett told me yesterday the game changes on how I can call it now with Randall Cunningham in it. Randall is more of an athletic quarterback. He likes to run more and throw on the run. I can't call the same things with Brad that I can call with this guy.
First and 10 for Randall Cunningham. Coming off the bench. And he'll throw it on first down to Robert Smith out of the backfield. Smith will pick up one before Eric Hill forces him out of bounds along with Lorenzo Stiles. Now last week on this very turf, this is a dangerous turf. Billy Joe Hobart saw his season come to an end. No one touched him. Brad Johnson, they're looking at him now. No one touched him.
Brad Johnson's a tough guy. Everybody knows that. And he was trying to throw last year with the hurt neck. For him to take a knee and go out of the game, he must be pretty seriously hurt.
3 wides in on second and 10. Smith. He gets rocked by Charlie Clemens. Pickup of 2.
Their throwing package is not the same now with Randall Cunningham in the game. I'm not saying they can't be effective, but it just changes. I think it's more on the perimeter now, and it's more movement-oriented, because that's what he does best.
Randall Cunningham completed 50% of his passes last year, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. 3rd and 7, Leroy Horde in the backfield, 3 wides on the field for Minnesota, and the blitz is coming in. There's Clemens, and he got Cunningham down. Clemens on the blitz, and then Mike Jones finishes him off.
This is the mixed front look. Vikings knew the Rams would give him some of this. Now there's Clemens right there. The fact that he's there throws off the blocking scheme, because these guys think they're going to block 3. Now all of a sudden it turns into 4, and there's confusion on who to block. The back comes up, but he comes up too late to try to block it. That's a page, Ray, out of Fritz Shermer's book on how to play the Minnesota Vikings on defense.
Berger bangs it out of bounds. No, it'll hit inbounds, and they'll get a bounce. Will the Vikings, as Eddie Kennison, they tried to kick it out of bounds. They didn't want to see him go another 80 for a touchdown. So we're all tied up, 31-31, 11:53 left in the 4th quarter. The St. Louis Rams will take over on their own 24-yard line after a 57-yard punt from Mitch Berger. Excellent special teams from Berger to get him back out of that hole. The hole could be bigger if Brad Johnson doesn't get back into this game.
Yeah, you're right about that. They retaped that right ankle. And now how that affects his setup, we'll see. But I'm not so sure he didn't hurt that ankle on the play before the play that we saw him go down on.
1st and 10. This will be Greg Hill. Hill bounces it outside. The pursuit is too strong from that Viking defense. Man, they can run. It's Clemens and Alexander.
Boy, Hill stopped awful quick on his ankle that time.
Ed McDaniel also in on that stop.
You know, Hill is a guy with the Kansas City Chiefs who was involved in Marty Schottenheimer's platoon running back system. But one thing the Vikings said is that we've scrimmaged Hill every single year because the Chiefs would practice over there in Wisconsin, and we know him pretty well, and he's always done well against us, and that bothers us.
Greg Hill, 19 carries, 82 yards thus far. This will be Amp Lee. Amp Lee forced out of bounds by Jimmy Hitchcock and Dwayne Rudd.
Now this is where we think Johnson hurt his ankle the first time. This is the play before he went out. He got rolled up on right there, and I believe that's it. don't want to guess, but he did get rolled up on. Looked like DeMarco Farr got him from the backside.
So it'll be 3rd down and 9 now for Tony Banks back in the shotgun. Banks will dump it to Amp Lee over the middle. Lee with a move in open field, brought down by Dwayne Rudd, but not until he gets another Rams first down. Amp Lee, unbelievable, coming out of the backfield, called 8 balls last week.
Yeah, the Rams right now, it's their game, and they have the game where they want it. And they didn't expect to be this close. But now it's their game to basically lose it if they're going to do it. They have to be on their cue. They can't make mistakes here. They got to have a ball control set up and make the first downs like that and move this ball down the field.
It's a 10 from 35. Hill into the middle of the field, and he's not going anywhere. Big Jerry Ball shoots the gap and knocks him down. Jerry Ball is the point man of this defense. They called him last year. Chris Carter called him. Coach Denny Green called him. They tried to get Jerry to come out of retirement to join his team, and Jerry had one question.
That's right.
Can you win?
And they said, yeah, we can win.
Of course they said yes.
Chris Carter said, yeah, we can win, but we need a man at the point, and you're that man. And he's a perfect complement to John Randall.
2nd down and 11. Gerald Moore and Amp Lee in the backfield. And Banks will look outside to Kennison. He'll hit him at the 40-yard line. Kennison stopped immediately by Jimmy Hitchcock, and there is a flag on the play. St. Louis penalties. Look at Dick Vermeil's face.
Formation, number 70, offense, not up on the line of scrimmage. 5 yards, 2nd down. Penalties.
This is the thing that has killed St. Louis, and it's killed them for quite a while now. This will be the 4th year running. 105 penalty yards in week 1, which was 27th worst in the league, 29th in penalty yards the last 2 years, and 85 today. They're killing themselves. Banks with the shuffle pass to Amp Lee. Lee will pick up 4 yards.
Yeah, this is the game that worried everyone in Minnesota. And it's coming to fruition, unfortunately for them, to have the big win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Division opponent, home opener, exciting new rookie. And then you go down and you play a team that's struggling, that you haven't played since '92.
Upcoming games for the Minnesota Vikings. This is the only one of their first 5 not in their own division. Detroit at home, and then on the road to Chicago and Green Bay.
Don't look at those next 3 games. Worry about getting out of this one alive.
Banks on 3rd and 11. Overshoots Ricky Prohl in the middle of the field. Torian Gray with the coverage and pressure coming from Tony Williams.
Tony Williams will come in and basically spell for Jerry Ball. And he's right down here. He comes in late. He's able to get a hat on the quarterback.
2. It's a line drive to David Palmer. And Palmer stumbles around. He looked like he had some room. And then he's brought down by London Fletcher, making the special teams play for the Rams. 36-yard punt. And the Vikings will take it over with the ball game tied up 31-31 with 7:58 left. Coming up next, the Cowboys visit Mile High to take on the Broncos. Aikman against Elway. That'll be a good one. We got a good one right here, 31-31 in the 4th quarter. As you look at this, 17 straight home wins for the Broncos.
Tough to beat in Denver, that's for sure.
1st and 10. Randall Cunningham will hand up to the middle to Robert Smith for a pickup of 4 on first down. Let's go down to the sidelines. Our Pete Peterson has an update on Brad Johnson. Pete?
Well, guys, Brad Johnson walking around very gingerly on that right ankle. He had it retaped. He's walking around, like I said. He's in a good bit of pain, but Randall Cunningham in right now. They will reevaluate as the game goes on, but right now Johnson, as you can see, is on the sideline.
Yeah, I don't know how much reevaluation is going to take place. I think he's there for the duration because he'd be out there now in a tied game with 7 minutes left and they have the ball.
Robert Smith looking for room on the cutback. Thrown to the ground by Jay Williams and Lorenzo Styles.
Yeah, I just keep thinking about that playoff game. Look at Bill at the offensive coordinator. That playoff game last year
when the
against
Vikings beat the Giants.
Yeah. And it's funny, they say up in Minnesota that Randall Cunningham had a great preseason. And this staff believes that he is the best backup quarterback in the NFL.
3rd down and 4. Moss at the bottom. Carter and Reed at the top. Leroy Horde in the backfield. Cunningham to throw. He'll look for Carter in the middle. Todd Light there with the coverage. And it's incomplete. And that's 4th down now for the Vikings. Another big play from Todd Light.
The Rams have been able to force the 4th down situation. Get off the field in 3rd down, it's huge. If you can't do that, you can't win at this level, especially if you're playing against teams with firepower like Minnesota and the Green Bay's have.
And we'll get to see Eddie Kennison return another punt from Mitch Berger. Kennison set at his 10-yard line.
Now I might think of kicking away.
Berger does. Kicks this one deep. Kennison will take it at his 16. And he's hit immediately by Kylie Wong. 36-yard punt, 1-yard return. We're all tied up, 31-31.
Watch this, Dwayne Butler working on Tajee Allen. Now this is what goes on the perimeters and special teams. He doesn't see another guy coming to earhole him here. Bam!
Tony Horn.
Tony Horn came by receiver and got some good wood.
Give Butler credit, he got up.
And now
this is our team.
This is our special teams guy. Look at his hustle. He doesn't have to worry about an earhole shot. He's just got to get in position and get the shot. And
Tony West, our mini camera guy, working hard on the sideline.
Good job, Tony. Our guys always work hard.
They
do a great job. The best in the business, I might add.
1st and 10. Banks will give it off to Hill. Hill dodges one man in the backfield, fights his way up to the line of scrimmage where Jerry Ball and John Randall make the stop. Tomorrow on Milestone Monday, a secret diary exposes every dirty Melrose secret on the 200th episode of Melrose Place. Then it's the season premiere of the year's most talked about show, Ally McBeal. It all happens tomorrow at 8, 7 Central on Fox. You're a big Melrose guy, Ronnie, I understand.
I wouldn't say that, but you know.
2nd down
I'm just not home enough.
Yeah. Ernie Conwell catches it at the 20, works his way up to the 25-yard line. For Dixon Edwards and Corey Fuller corralling.
So you keep talking about that Rams offensive line. And big Orlando Pace, 1st-round pick from 2 years ago. You know, like all other rookies, he came in, had the big training camp holdout, and really had to struggle to get his technique together. But he's starting to come around. He's got Ray what I think is the key to that tackle position. Foot movement.
The feet.
Yeah, he slides his feet. You slide the feet, the big body, the hands, all that stuff comes. He can deal with the speed rush.
Tough to quick a man with good feet. Banks will throw it outside. He's got Isaac Groot. 1st down yardage. Forced out of bounds by Jimmy Hitchcock.
Rams need to work the clock now. Keep the drives going. Stay on the field.
2 timeouts left for the Rams. Today's game is being produced by Pete Macheska and directed by Michael Frank. The associate director is Ronit Larone. The broadcast associate, Eric Big E Billigmeyer. Technical producer is Dan Rotante. Studio was produced by Scott Eckerson, directed by Bob Levy. Banks will throw on 1st and 10. Oh, you get Conwell over the middle.
Randall finally got there.
And John Randall put the big pressure on Tony Banks.
The sack is nice, but hits pay dividends later on in your quarterback. There's Randall. He's inside. And Wiegert worked on him about as long as he could. The ball came out, but that ball should have been caught.
Yeah, Ernie Conwell's got to have that.
You still don't want to see your quarterback picking himself up that much. How about his commercial chasing that little chicken?
That's a classic. And then the barbecue at the end, the payoff. 2nd and 10. Banks will hand it off up the middle on a draw play. Hill will pick up 2.
This is the kind of game that the Vikings did not want to get into. And the Rams, well, they got to pinch themselves every now and then on this one. Because the way they played the last year and in that last game, this is all good for them. But for that man there, Denny Green, he knows he's in serious, serious trouble.
He's in a dogfight. 3rd down and 8. Banks from the shotgun. Looking for Ampli. Picked off, and then they're going to say it is an interception by Jimmy Hitchcock. Had one last week in the 4th quarter. Does it again this week.
And there's the big play that the Vikings needed.
4th interception on the day for Tony Banks. Pressure from John Randall.
One-on-one. You see him slap the hands down. He got in there and he forces Tony Banks to pull the trigger a little bit outside. Maybe he's late on the ball anyway. And then Hitchcock just jumps all over. They said Hitchcock likes to jump the route. He likes to squat on things, and that time he squatted and it paid off.
Glover in motion. Flag flies. Cunningham throws it out to Glover. Glover hit and knocked out of bounds by Todd Light. Illegal motion on the Vikings.
That's a big... That's a big penalty there for Minnesota.
And St. Louis trying to figure out what they want to do with it.
Definitely got to take them back.
2 men moving prior to the snap, and they did not reset. That's a 5-yard penalty. Repeat the down. 1st down.
You're right. You want to move them out of field goal position and move them back as far as possible. You'll take any yardage you can get.
Yeah, that puts them about midfield, exactly midfield. But the bottom line is the Vikings got the play that they needed. And now it's up to Randall Cunningham to get the points that they need.
Moss and Carter up to the top. Jake Reed down below. They'll give it off to Robert Smith to the left side. He's got a seam. He'll pick up 6, call it 7 yards before Toby Wright comes up from the strong safety spot for the tackle. Minnesota coming in had to run the football out of 3 wide receivers. They've done a pretty decent job of it.
Oh, they've done a great job of it. There it is right there. 3 wide receivers in the game. 12 carries, 125 yards, and you had a couple big runs by Robert Smith.
Both touchdowns came out of that. 177 total rushing yards for the Vikings on 2nd and 8. Cunningham looks over to the middle of the field, throws this one up for grabs. Good coverage from Todd Light and Toby Wright.
The pressure's good. The Rams, if they bring that kind of pressure, they can only double 2 people in a 3 wide out situation. That time, Dexter McLeon, the corner, was manned up with Randy Moss.
But he threw to Chris Carter, who was double.
But it's hard to see in the heat of the battle.
3rd down and 8.
Huge, huge play in this game.
Moss to the bottom. Chris Wallace in motion. The pressure's on. Cunningham will run it and now throw it. He's got Chris Wallace. Wallace will go out of bounds at the 23-yard line. Randall Cunningham is most dangerous when he's on the run, the leading all-time NFL rusher from the quarterback position.
That's what we talked about, and what they're complaining about is, did he cross the line of scrimmage when he threw the ball? Was he over the line?
Line of scrimmage was the 43-yard line.
Ball in about the 43-yard line.
I think he got it away before he crossed that line.
Looks from there like he got it away.
And the Rams are going to take a timeout to regather themselves on defense. Vic Vermeil's not happy. Let's take a look at that and see if
he makes that face. Well, you know he's upset.
See if Randall Cunningham was across that 43-yard line.
43 is about right there. Keep that point in mind, right about in there.
Boy, that's tight. But I think he was behind the line.
In order for that to be called over the line, the ball and the man have to both be over the line when he throws it.
Vic Vermeil certainly thought they were.
Well, that's a close one. That's a close one. But there we go. That's how the offense changes when Cunningham is in there. More on the run stuff. Get him out in space where he can work better. And then Randall settled down a little bit from his old days where he ran all the time and tried to do everything on the run. He now knows when to maybe take off with it, when to pull it up. You know, when he was with Philadelphia, he would have took off running and went head on with somebody or jumped in the air.
You get older, you get a little wiser.
Taking them hits.
That's right. So despite taking a timeout, the Rams still have confusion on the defense, running players off and on the football field.
They still got too many men on the field.
Like some kind of fire drill.
They're lucky the official stepped in front of the ball and stopped that play from going on, because the Rams they had a lot of confusion going on, and the Vikings were ready to play football.
2:55 left on the clock. The Vikings driving down 1st and 10 on the 23. They'll go in a 3-wide package and give it to Robert Smith off the left side down to the 18. Smith, a career high 22 carries, 178 yards on the day, and a couple of touchdowns. You see Gary Anderson getting ready. They love the acquisition of Gary Anderson. He finally gets to kick in a dome.
It was kind of a quiet acquisition, too. Didn't get a lot of pub about it, but the guy is consistent.
2nd down, 7 to go. Cunningham gets stepped on. He'll get back up. And he'll throw it almost caught out there by Jake Reed.
The fact that he could even get up, and that's nothing but pure athletic ability. To be able to make that play, and that's why they talk about having a guy that can move around as your second quarterback in the pocket. I think the center steps on him again. Nah, that was Big David Dixon. This is almost an outstanding catch.
They almost made some lemonade.
Some lemonade.
They had some lemons going there for a minute. Big 3rd down, 3rd and 7 for the Vikings. Leroy Horde in the backfield. Randy Moss motion. And he looks for Carter in the end zone. Touchdown, Chris Carter. 19 yards. The Vikings go back on top with 2:09 left.
Once again, the matchup not good.
Keith Lyle on the cover.
The safety trying to cover Chris Carter. Taking nothing away from Lyle's ability, but that's not your matchup. You want corner on wide receiver. And who is the money guy that this team always goes to when they need it? Right there, Chris Carter. That's what the good teams do.
Gary Anderson on to kick the extra point, and it is good. Minnesota goes up 38-37 with 2:09 left yards in the ballgame.
If you're going to bring blitzes and try to get pressure, then you're going to pay a price in the secondary by bad matchups sometimes, and that's what happens.
They even left Randy Moss in to protect.
They bring the corner light. Instead of covering, they say you blitz, and then the safety has to cover. Right here. I mean, poor Keith Lyle, he's off 7 yards in a part of the field where he needs to choke it down, and he can't make the play. He did. That was a great effort. He came and closed on it. But when I need the money, I'm going to the money man, and that's Chris Carter, and he makes it happen. And like I say, the good football teams find a way in the tight games that maybe haven't gone like they should have gone to make the play. And look at that throw.
How about that throw?
Look at that. The protection held up just long enough to make the play.
Then, of course, you got to help him up.
Your boys got to help you up now.
Constitucy embracing Randall Cunningham.
The Vikings have every right in the world to say that that man, number 7, may be the best backup quarterback in the NFL.
Showed it on that 6-play, 45-yard drive, putting the Vikings up 38-31. Mitch Berger set to hammer this one deep. Horn and Thomas back to receive. Tony Horn from the 2. Horn with a seam. Almost broke it outside. And we have reached our 2-minute warning. The Vikings up 38-31. Don't go away. There's more football to play. Randall Cunningham to Chris Carter. The Vikings back on top, 38-31. Cunningham 3 of 6 for 41 yards and a 19-yard TD to Chris Carter, the money man for the Vikings. Tony Banks will take it out of the shotgun. 1st and 10. He'll be forced out of the pocket, and now he's got no run. And Banks will take it up and out of bounds at the 43-yard line. Let's take a game break, and we'll head out to our network center in Los Angeles. Here's JB.
Ray and Ron, and here's Sammy Sosa. Cubs against Milwaukee. Number 61 by Sammy Sosa. Boy, hasn't it been wonderful watching the maturation of this guy as a hitter? It is not over in terms of the single-season home run king. Sosa right there. Let's take it back to Ray and Ron.
Boy, that's great. That is just something else. And not only have one guy tie the record, didn't subsequently break it, now another guy has tied it and will probably break it as well.
It's going down the wire between those two. It's going down to the wire here, and for Lee on the receiving end of a Tony Banks pass. Lee with no gain on the play.
That mad scramble there, that mad scramble there looked like the mad scramble for Sosa's ball on the parking lot.
There was a mad one. Would you give it back?
Don't ask me that.
Yeah, no, I know you would.
I definitely would give it back.
Tony Banks on 2nd and 11. Looking outside for Isaac Bruce. Bruce stumbled, still regained his footing and makes the reception, a 16-yarder out of bounds at the 41. What athleticism from Isaac Bruce.
It is. He had plenty of room to work on Hitchcock there, too. The deep out, that's been there all day long. Look at that. Hitchcock is off 6 yards. You see the way Bruce worked him inside to give himself room for the outside. And now the catch. He twisted his ankle a little bit there.
Yeah, they're looking at him right now. Isaac Bruce off the field. JT Thomas checks in. Banks. Over the middle for Well, this one's knocked away. Almost picked up Eddie McManuel.
Eddie Mack could have ended this real quick. This is a chance for the Rams to find out how good they are playing against a very good team. The game is close. It's in their hands right now. Can they go down the field and make something happen?
What a day for Isaac Bruce. Last year, he had the best day in NFL receiving, 234 yards. He's got 19 catches in 2 weeks, and we've got Derek Alexander getting an early start. Now he's going to start the pointing.
90 defense, 5 yards, 2nd down.
Yeah, that was one of those where Derek didn't even try to contest it. And then he just kept coming.
St. Louis will pick up 5 more yards. 2nd down and 5. And Isaac Bruce still out of this ball game. check back into the ball game and receives the catch, his 10th catch of the ball game. It'll be close to a first down. Looks like it's going to be a little shy.
Big third down coming up for the Rams, obviously, but that's the amount of touches or catches that they wanted Isaac Bruce to get. Dick Vermeil said, we will throw it to him, and he will see it at least 10 times a game. And that's what you should do with your impact guy. You know, don't play games with people. Give him the ball. Let him make his plays.
Third down and 1. Banks will throw quick to the outside. And Bruce again for number 11 and a first down for the Rams. This one ain't over. 1:05 and counting. They're down by a touchdown. They have one timeout left. Do the Rams. Banks throws it away, looking for Amp Lee. Pressure by Derek Alexander. Coming up next, you're going to want to see this one. The Dallas Cowboys taking on the defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos up at Mile High. It's Aikman going against Elway. A battle for the ages.
Battle of the quarterbacks as well. If I'm the Rams, I got to take a shot in the end zone with Isaac Bruce one more time. And Isaac is getting tired. He's been running around out there, and I know he's in great shape. But the Vikings don't even look to be trying to double team on him.
Bruce at the bottom of your screen. Banks will go the other way for Amp Lee. Lee catches it. Ed McDaniel brings him down. They'll move the chains. They're inside the 20-yard line.
Remember, they've got the one timeout left. They don't want to burn that.
3rd and 3 for Banks. And he'll go to the end zone for Ike Bruce, and he overthrows him. Jimmy Hitchcock with good coverage. One timeout left.
Now you got one timeout left. The clock is stopped, but you got a big pickup here. And it's not just a short, 1 yard or 1 inch for the first down. That's a very long 2 in this end of the field.
We'll come down to this play, a 4th down attempt by the St. Louis Rams. Denny Green's defense out there trying to throw a blanket. And they'll put Bruce in the slot. Hole down low. Banks goes for throwing. It's knocked away by Jimmy Hitchcock. The flag comes out.
Wow, that was a late flag. Everybody in this stadium is holding their breath, hoping that there's a flag. That's how late it was.
Defensive pass interference, number 4.
Wow. Jimmy Hitchcock, the guilty party.
I thought Hitchcock just made a great break. He's going to be over here. He recognizes it on troll. No, that's a bad play. He doesn't make enough contact to impede Pro's ability to catch the football. Oh, boy. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
The Rams stay alive. 20 seconds left. Pro in motion. Back from the shotgun. Almost the 3rd interception for Robert Griffith. Should have had it.
He had Conwell. It looked like he was open right down the middle of the seam for a split second or two. But that was the worst throw he could have tried to make.
Tried to force it in.
If I'm going to make a throw right now, I'm telling you, it's going to be to Isaac Bruce. I mean, all Griffith has to do is just hold the ball.
His old man, Orlando Thomas, might have shielded it.
Don't even worry about running. Just catch the ball and take a knee.
2nd and 10 from the 13. 16 seconds left. Banks into the end zone looking for Isaac Bruce. It's knocked away by Corey Fuller.
Nice play by Corey Fuller. Corey Fuller sat down inside. He read it all the way. The post move. Right outside. He's going to work in. And then watch Fuller. He knows it, so he recognizes it right here. And then he comes underneath. He cuts a great angle. That was the difference. He made a great angle to the ball. And was careful not to make contact.
Nails biting time. 3rd and 10 from the 13. The Rams, their last gasp, trailing by 7.
7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7.
Throws it out to Conwell. Conwell will get out of bounds inside the 10 to the 9-yard line. 6 seconds left. Got time for one, maybe two more plays.
Maybe two.
Got one timeout left. It's 4th down. Do you use it?
Remember, this has been where Banks has called all the plays. Now, I have to believe he's getting a little help from the sidelines now.
They're going to let him roll.
I would still have to take my other shot in the end zone at Isaac Bruce. He's just been too successful today.
Bruce at the bottom. Banks is scrambled. He's got plenty of room. He'll take it.
Did he get it?
Goal line.
No, he's short. Going to call a timeout.
The time is off the clock. Time has expired. That's the end of the ballgame. They come up 1 yard short.
Wait a minute. Now, did he? Wow. Because he would have. Wow. Wow.
So close for the Rams and Tony Banks.
And you know, the thing is, it's when the official recognizes the timeout has been called.
Watch your clock in the lower right hand of your screen.
Now, at this point, he doesn't attempt to say anything.
Oh, he didn't get
now,
the
maybe the offensive linemen are calling it back there, and I know Ricky Prohl on the side called it.
Banks has got to jump up with the timeout.
He's got to try to get the ball across the plane, number one, all those bodies there.
An unbelievable finish. So for Ron Pitts, this is Ray Bentley saying so long from the Trans World Dome, where the final score, Minnesota 38, St. Louis 31. In game 2 of our doubleheader, you'll see the Dallas Cowboys travel to Denver to take on the world champion Broncos, except for those of you in the St. Louis area. That's next, right after these words from your local Fox station.